Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Unlimited rewards in Marvel, and my girlfriend is Wonder Woman. Chapter 61. Although Botu and the others have not been to other heavenly cities, they know that each heavenly capital has an entrance to the real world. These entrances are distributed all over Asia. The main entrance in Kunlun is opened every 10 years, and the other entrances are opened every 50 years. Because the Kunlun people have longevity, strength, and magical powers that are far beyond ordinary people, the surrounding people who have witnessed their existence mistake them for gods and confuse them with the gods of the flower family. But in fact, the immortals of the flower family are completely different from the Kunlun people. What's more, the immortals in the Marvel world are not the same as the immortals in Russell's memory. In the Marvel universe, the immortals of the flower gardeners are a special race similar to the Asgardians, called the immortal race. They live in the extra-dimensional Dalwoshan supported by 5 sacred mountains. The legendary 8th city, 8 Hot Hells, was jointly created by the immortals and Kunlun people. According to the words of Botu and others, Kunlun is a golden holy city centered on secret arts and martial arts, a city full of light and harmony. It sits on a bedrock of fire, blood, and steel, full of ancient wisdom and extremely strict laws. In Kunlun, both indigenous Kunlun people and people from the outside world who have entered Kunlun have the opportunity to learn various secret techniques such as flying in the sky and escaping the earth, and obtain a powerful body like a rock. Under normal circumstances, Kunlun will not interfere in human affairs, and it is strictly forbidden to teach outsiders martial arts. Those who violate the law will be directly expelled from Kunlun. Of course, in addition to expelling Kunlun, there are also other punishments. In short, Kunlun is a place with extremely strict laws. If you can abide by the laws of Kunlun, then Kunlun is like a fairyland. But if the law of Kunlun is violated, then the situation is not very good. As for how wonderful it is, Botu and others briefly introduced Russell. Let's just put it this way, the reason why Botu and the others would steal the keel and betray Kunlun has a lot to do with Kunlun's laws. Of course, their own greed is also a very important point. In addition to inquiring about Kunlun from Botu and others, Russell also inquired about the keel. How many keels they have in their hands and how they should be used are not to be said. Russell focused on the situation of the underground keel in New York. Botu and others do know that there is a keel underground in New York, but they don't know exactly where the keel is buried. But one thing they can confirm is that the keel in the underground of New York is sealed. If you want to find the keel under New York, you need the help of Iron Fist. This is also the main reason why they know that Danny Rand is the current Iron Fist, but they don't bother to pay attention to him. Otherwise, Danny Rand, the weakest Iron Fist in history, would have been killed by them long ago. In addition to the news about Kunlun and Keel, Botu and others who were devastated by him to the point of mental breakdown also provided him with additional news. The most powerful slaughtering weapon of the hand, Hei Kong, possessed by the primitive evil beast, defected inexplicably. Russell is no stranger to what happened to Hei Kong. He was also not surprised that Erica turned into a black sky. Although he doesn't know how far Daredevil and Erica in this world have developed, it is not particularly strange that Erica has turned into a black sky. Just like the high probability that Captain America will be dug up, it is also a high probability that Erica will become black sky. He didn't care at all why Erica defected from the hand. As long as Erica doesn't come to provoke him, even if Erica goes to the Supreme Sanctuary to find the Ancient One to exorcise the demon, he will not have any interest. After drinking half the bottle of whiskey in Jin Bing's office, Russell finally waited for Bullseye and Mr. Negative. I don't know if it was a coincidence or an appointment. They came to Jin Bing's office together and handed over the keel that originally belonged to Mrs. Gao and Sawanda to Jin Bing. After seeing the keel brought back by the two of them, Jin Pinkai finally made sure that Russell didn't take the kickback. As long as you compare the number of keels of Madame Gao and Sawanda, you can easily infer the number of keels in the hands of the 3 Bo-Tuo. Although this is only a rough guess, it can be seen that Russell really only took half of the keel. Just as Jin Ping was looking at the keel in front of him with satisfaction, Russell put down the wine glass in his hand and came to Martin Lee, who was in normal human condition. As soon as he came over, Mr. Martin Lee frowned slightly. Although he didn't know what Russell was thinking, the way Russell looked at him now made him very uncomfortable. However, before he could say anything, Russell made a lightning strike. Venom. Without any hesitation, Russell directly exerted the ability of venom, and dozens of large and small black tentacles emerged from his body. His speed was so fast that Mr. Negative didn't even have time to release the negative energy. In just an instant, the black tentacles on Russell's body were like the tentacles of an octopus, which bound Mr. Negative firmly. Without giving Mr. Negative a chance to resist, the moment the black tentacles touched his body, Russell decisively started the symbiote's possession. In the building of the hand, he had seen Mr. Negative's fighting stance. Although he is sure to take down Mr. Negative, who is going all out, he never minds using sneak attacks to solve things that can be solved by sneak attacks. As soon as Mr. Negative's skin showed signs of turning black, Russell completed the symbiote's possession. "Russell, what are you doing?" Seeing Russell's sudden attack on Mr. Negative, Kim slammed the table and shouted at Russell. "Shut up. It's none of your business here." Russell turned to look at Jin Bing and said coldly. Before the commission was completed, Kim was not his employer. Out of professional ethics, he will give Jin Bing some face. But now, the commission has ended. Although Jin Bing is an underworld emperor, to him, he is just a stronger ordinary person. Besides, it wasn't the first time he had done something like killing his former employer. The cross is a good example. Jin did not expect that Russell would give him such disrespect. After seeing Russell's expression that whoever intervenes will die, he involuntarily clenched his fists. After calming down the anger in his heart, he said again, "This is my place anyway, you are in my place, and you take action against the people I invited. Should you give me an explanation?" As Jin Bing, it is undoubtedly a rare thing for him to say such words. "Explain it. No problem, I'll give it to you. I have some personal grievances with him, and I have to settle them now." After speaking, Russell ignored Jin Bing and began to manipulate the superpower of Mr. Symbiote Copy Negative. Although Russell's attitude was a bit arrogant, Kim Byung and Bullseye didn't think anything was wrong. The domineering and arrogance of travelers has long spread throughout the underworld of New York. In their opinion, this is Russell's normal style. The only thing they couldn't understand was why Russell shot Mr. Negative. Although Russell said it was a personal grudge between him and Mr. Negative, Kim and Bullseye knew very well that the two of them had never had contact before. To be precise, they hadn't even seen each other before tonight. As soon as I heard the words of personal grievances, I knew it was an excuse made up by Russell. But even so, Jin Biao could only bite the bullet and agree to this statement. Russell is not a good person to get along with. He is called a crazy traveler for no reason. If Mr. Negative were his subordinates, Jin might even make a move for him. Russell ignored Jin Bing and Bullseye's scrutiny of his own eyes, and tried his best to urge the symbiote to copy Mr. Negative's superpower. He knew that if he made a move here, it would definitely attract Jin Bing's dissatisfaction. But he still chose to do so. The reason is very simple. He doesn't want to waste time looking for other opportunities to deal with Mr. Negative. Anyway, it's all about to shoot, it's better to be sooner than later. And there is another advantage of taking action in Jin Bing's office, that is, Mr. Negative Martin Lee would never have thought that he would take action here. After being possessed by the symbiote, Mr. Negative completely lost control of his body. But Russell still encountered some minor troubles. Mr. Negative can't resist now, but the negative energy in his body is resisting the symbiote's possession instinctively. This is the third time Russell has replicated the target's ability through the symbiote's possession. But this time, the time to copy is much longer than the 2 times that Sloane and Punisher were copied. 5 minutes passed, and the copying progress was not even 1/10. Russell cursed in his heart. He knew that this time the duplication was more time-consuming than the previous 2. After all, Mr. Negative was a real genetic mutation. However, he did not expect that the progress of copying would be so slow. At the beginning, Kim and Bullseye were curious about what Russell was going to do to Mr. Negative. As time passed, their expressions became a little strange. Mr. Negative was firmly bound by the black tentacles gushing out of Russell's body and stood motionless. And Russell, who was the initiator, is standing still and doesn't say a word. Looking at this somewhat out-of-place calm scene in front of him, Jin Bing and Bullseye looked at each other. What is he doing? Do not know. When will they end? Do not know. Why don't you know anything? You don't know anything either. Although Jin Bing and Bullseye didn't speak, they could see what the other party wanted to express from the other party's eyes and expressions. In the end, it was Russell who was the first to endure this strange atmosphere. If it's just him and Mr. Negative, he can endure it even if it lasts for an hour or two. But here, it's not just him and Mr. Negative. Jin Bing and Bullseye are now looking at him and Mr. Negative like two curious melon eaters. Turning his head and looking at Jin Bing and Bullseye, who had expressed, "I'll see, I won't speak," with their actual actions, Russell manipulated the black tentacles and lifted Mr. Negative. Then, under the gaze of Jin Bing and Bullseye, he left the office. He did not choose to take the elevator to leave the Fisker building, but came to the top of the Fisker building. After mentally calculating the distance to the opposite building and Mr. Negative's weight, he started to run. Just when he was about to run to the edge of the roof, his legs suddenly forced and jumped towards the opposite building. Although he was carrying an adult, it was not difficult for him to jump directly from the Fisker building to the opposite building. At the moment he took off, the floor under his feet shattered, and cobweb-like cracks spread out. After jumping to the roof of the opposite building, he did not stop, and jumped towards another building. Relying on his inhuman physique, he quickly disappeared into the night with Mr. Negative. After jumping all the way to Hell's Kitchen, he stopped this strange way of traveling and started the final copy on the roof of an abandoned building. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. It wasn't until an hour later that he finally succeeded in replicating Mr. Negative's superpower. At the moment when the copy was successful, the black tentacles that bound Mr. Negative quickly turned white at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only that, the negative energy like black and white flames began to emerge in him. Finally succeeded. After seeing that the black tentacles tied to Mr. Negative turned white, he did not release the possession immediately, but directly began to liquefy the poison. Large and small white tentacles gushed out of his body. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a white monster with a mouth full of fangs and hands like demon claws. Venom form. No, it should be called the Serum form now. Judging from his appearance, now he is a Venom whose color scheme is just reversed. The black appearance has become white. The white lines on his body also turned black. The white eyes not only became smaller, but also had an orange-red glow. The mouth full of fangs and sharp teeth also turned black. If you open your mouth, you can still see the orange-red light, as if a dragon is brewing a dragon's breath in its mouth. The only thing that hasn't changed much is the long and flexible red tongue. Although there is no mirror now, and he can't appreciate his new form, Russell doesn't pay too much attention to this. Now he is feeling the difference between Serum and Venom. In terms of life form, Serum is also a symbiote. But obviously, the Serum is not the normal form of the symbiote, but a mutant form. For strength and speed, he can't test it now. But there is one thing he can confirm, that is, the enhancement of Serum to him is obviously stronger than that of Venom. In addition to this, he now possesses a healing ability that can be called a monster. A normal symbiote can only heal itself. And Serum can heal other people. Whether it is a disease in the normal sense, such as cancer or something. Diseases in the unconventional sense such as drug addiction, and even genetic mutations, are all within the scope of Serum's cure. Although it is impossible to test the strengthening of strength and constitution of Serum, but the extraordinary healing ability of Serum, he now has a good test target. Thinking of this, he turned his attention to Mr. Negative. Until now, he has not unlocked Mr. Negative's symbiote possession. Looking at Mr. Negative, who looked no different from normal humans, Russell unconsciously licked his lips with his long, flexible red tongue. Since you provided me with new abilities and made Venom evolve into Serum, let's make you the first healing target of Serum. Mr. Negative, who was possessed by the symbiote, could not resist Russell at all, and could only watch Russell in Serum form grab his neck and lift himself up. After lifting Mr. Negative, Russell released the symbiotic possession on him and returned the control of his body to Mr. Negative. However, before Mr. Negative could be happy, he felt an indescribable force. The negative energy in his body quickly dissipated under the suppression of this inexplicable energy. After discovering this, Mr. Negative had a horrified expression on his face. He began to struggle desperately, trying to get rid of Russell's right hand. But unfortunately, under the huge power gap, his struggles didn't have the desired effect at all. At the beginning, he resisted fiercely. But it didn't take long for his face to turn pale. Gone. His proud superpower disappeared. Although he didn't know how Russell did it, he knew that without his superpowers, he would lose everything he had now. Mr. Negative, Martin Lieben, is a low-level member of the smuggling group. If there was an accident in that smuggling, he would still be an insignificant person. Although his superpower was acquired after an accident, it cannot be denied that if there was no accident in that smuggling, he would not have been caught by the Magia gang of Hammerhead, nor would he have become a test subject for the inhuman drug experiment. Russell ignores Martin Lee, who is facing ashes. After using the extraordinary healing power of the serum to heal Martin Lee's superpower, and turning him back into an ordinary person, he did not hesitate and twisted his right hand slightly. Click. The crisp sound of bones breaking sounded. The famous film Mr. Martin Lee was killed by him like this. He dares to kill superheroes, and of course he won't have any psychological burdens for supervillains. To be cured is to be cured, and to be killed is to be killed, these are two different things. The cure for Martin Lee was to test the extraordinary healing power of the serum. As for killing him, there are many reasons. The first is to keep secrets and prevent other symbiotes from evolving because of negative energy. Although the real venom has not yet appeared, symbiotes such as massacres and riots have not yet appeared. But ghosts know when these symbiotes will emerge. They may not know that Mr. Negative's negative energy can help the symbiote mutate, but keeping Mr. Negative is always a hidden danger. For safety's sake, it's better to kill him. Of course, in addition to Mr. Negative's negative energy, there is another way to make venom evolve into serum, such as the artificial Serum 2.0 developed by the chemical technology giant Alchemy Company. But don't worry about this, artificial Serum 2.0 doesn't even have a shadow now. To be precise, it is still a question whether Alchemy Company will develop artificial Serum 2.0. Secondly, killing Mr. Negative would be considered to have eliminated harm for the people. Mr. Negative Martin Lee Ming's identity is on the surface as a philanthropist who built the homeless shelter feast, but in the final analysis, this is just a means for him to whitewash himself. Russell doesn't think he's a good guy just because he built a homeless shelter. If this is a good person, then Jin is more of a good person than him. After all, Jin Bing spends more money on charity every year than he does. After confirming that Mr. Negative was dead and could no longer die, Russell released his right hand and let the body fall on the cold floor. Glancing at Martin Lee, who had a neat suit but had lost his life, he turned around and said slowly in the direction of the water storage bucket, "It's all here, so there's no need to hide." When he twisted Mr. Negative's neck, he noticed that an uninvited guest came to the roof. Although the other party's movements were very light, he did not hide it from his ears. After he finished speaking, a superhero who was no stranger to the people of New York walked out from behind the huge water bucket. To be precise, a female superhero. The black and white uniform that fits closely to the body perfectly outlines the concave and convex curves. The close-fitting uniform, which is white on top and black on the bottom, not only gives people a strong visual contrast but also makes those long and straight legs stand out. Although it is a close-fitting uniform, it is different from the tights of other heroes. This is a tights with a hood. Spider-Gwen. The first second he saw this figure, Russell recognized her identity. Of course, in the mouths of New York citizens and the media, she is Spider-Woman, not Spider-Gwen. Because the tongue is too long and flexible, when he looked at Gwen, the long tongue licked his lips unconsciously. After seeing Russell staring at him like a monster in front of him, Gwen under the uniform frowned slightly. She didn't know Russell, but she didn't like the way Russell looked at her now. As a superhero who has been out for 4 years, she has long ceased to be that innocent high school girl. Although Russell is not in normal human form now, Gwen is very keenly aware of the true thoughts in his eyes. That's an unhealthy look. She has seen this kind of look in the eyes of many men when she is fighting criminals, and when she is swaying through high-rise buildings with spider silk. Unlike those normal gazes, when those men look at her with this kind of eyes, they usually focus on certain key points. Now Russell, just like those men, looked at some important parts of her body with unhealthy eyes. More importantly, when Russell looked at her with this look, her spider sense sounded like an alarm clock. After coming out from behind the water storage bucket, Gwen did not speak, and looked at Russell condescendingly. Russell did not speak at this time, silently admired Gwen's perfect curve. Although Gwen is not short, she is still a little shorter than Diana, and looks like she is just over 1.7 meters. In addition to being shorter than Diana, her figure is not as good as Diana's. Whether it's bust, curves, or long legs, she is a bit inferior to Diana. But considering the age gap between her and Diana, this is normal. Diana is fully developed, and there is no chance of a second development. But Gwen is different. She has not graduated from college, so she obviously still has some room for improvement. But it's hard to say how much progress can be made. After staring at each other for a few minutes, Gwen finally spoke. "What's your name?" Gwen didn't ask him why he wanted to kill Mr. Negative, but directly asked what Russell's name was. Sarah. Without thinking about it, Russell gave himself a new code name. Although Gwen seems friendly now, he's not stupid enough to tell Gwen his real name. As for whether Gwen can find out his true identity in the future, that will be a matter of the future. After hearing his answer, Gwen glanced at Mr. Negative's body and said again, "You'd better deal with his body." Gwen knew very well who Mr. Negative was. Although she rarely kills criminals, she is not the kind of superhero with only political correctness in her mind. If she could not kill, of course she would not take the initiative to kill the criminal. But if a criminal really died in front of her, especially a supervillain like Mr. Negative, she would not have any idea of getting justice for the criminal. Even if Gwen didn't say it, Russell would have dealt with Mr. Negative's body. If Gwen hadn't come, he'd have called the cleaners by now to come over and dispose of the body. "Thanks for reminding," Russell said slowly to Gwen. Although he couldn't see Gwen's expression now, from Gwen's tone, she didn't take Mr. Negative's death to heart at all. After hearing Russell's answer, Gwen didn't speak anymore and nodded. Then, under Russell's gaze, she shot Spider Silk towards the building next door and quickly disappeared into the night. Seeing Gwen leaving, a thought suddenly popped into Russell's mind. Gwen becomes Spider-Woman because she was bitten by a radioactively infected spider, which awakened her superpowers. Although in Gwen's parallel universe, little Peter's destiny is to become a lizard man. But it's clear that this isn't Gwen's parallel universe, but a hybrid universe with superheroes like Captain America and the Fantastic Four. If you let her bite little Peter, maybe he can awaken his superpowers. Although the idea is a bit whimsical, Russell thinks it's okay to try it. But soon, he put the idea behind him. No, it's not good for Gwen to bite Peter. If you have to let Gwen bite, it is better to let Gwen bite him. Peter is still too young now, it's better for him as an adult to bear this kind of thing. Right, this kind of thing should be for him as an adult. When Gwen's figure completely disappeared from sight, Russell released his serum form and returned to his normal human appearance. After calling the cleaner Charlie, he sat down on the edge of the rooftop and looked at Hell's Kitchen under the night sky. Charlie is very efficient. In less than 15 minutes, Charlie came down to the top of the building with his 5 and 3 thick men. When Mr. Negative's body was packed and taken away, he gave Charlie a gold coin. "Good night, Mr. Bradley." Before leaving, Charlie took off his hat and said to Russell, "Good night, Charlie." After resolving the matter of Mr. Negative, Russell started his ordinary life again. Time flies by. Before I knew it, another week passed. This week, he didn't take any more commissions. Whether it was a commission from the Continental Hotel or a commission from a detective agency, he didn't answer either. Now, he has put his main energy on the adaptation of Serum and negative energy. Although Serum is stronger than Venom, Serum is evolved from Venom, so it is not troublesome to adapt. With little effort, he was completely accustomed to the Serum. Perhaps because of the emergence of Serum and negative energy, the system has 2 new functions that were not available before. The evolution reward function is on. Free reward function is on. Evolution reward. Serum Symbiote. Status. Activated. Activation condition. Evolve Venom with negative energy. Activation effect. After activation, get all the abilities of Serum possessed. Evolution times. 1 time. Freedom reward. Negative energy. Status. Activated. Activation condition. Kill Mr. Negative. Activation effect. After activation, get negative energy. On the surface, the system just organizes Serum and negative energy into 2 new reward types. However, things are not so simple. Unlike those regular rewards, the system does not give a list of evolutionary rewards and free rewards. However, some of the rewards that have been activated have a note that has never been seen before. Evolution times. Unlimited reward system. Activated rewards. 5. Regular rewards. Wonder Woman's Blessing, Destiny Assassin, Endosymbiotic Armor. Evolutionary reward. Serum Symbiote. Freedom reward. Negative energy. The advent of evolutionary reward serum, which caused the regular reward venom to disappear. In other words, the conventional reward venom has been upgraded to an evolutionary reward serum symbiote. Among these 5 rewards, in addition to the evolution reward serum symbiote, there are 2 rewards that also have a new node of the number of evolutions. Regular reward. Wonder Woman's Blessing, evolution times 0. Regular reward. Endosymbiotic Battle Armor, evolution times 0. The system still maintains the usual high-cold style, without any explanation for the new remark of the number of evolutions. However, just by looking at the regular reward venom turned into the evolution reward serum, it's not hard to guess what the number of evolutions really means. To put it simply, the 2 regular rewards, Wonder Woman's Blessing and Endosymbiotic Armor, still have the possibility of evolution. But what are the conditions for evolution? The system did not say. As long as he meets the evolutionary conditions, the 2 regular rewards of Wonder Woman's Blessing and Endosymbiotic Armor will become evolutionary rewards like Serum. Although I don't know what the conditions for evolution are, the appearance of the note on the number of evolutions at least let Russell know that those rewards still have a chance to continue to evolve. In addition to evolutionary rewards, he is also very interested in the newly opened free reward function of the system. If the evolution reward is an upgraded version of the regular reward, then the free reward is an additional supplement to the regular reward. Although there are many regular rewards given by the system, most of them are not enabled. Russell has been in this world for 3 years. The system has only opened 4 regular rewards. According to this activation efficiency, the ghost knows how long he will have to wait for other rewards to activate. So, in order to make up for this, or in other words, under his mistake, the function of free reward was turned on. When will the regular rewards be activated? He said it doesn't count. But freedom rewards are different. If he can copy other people's superpowers like Mr. Negative's superpowers, then when the free reward will appear, it is entirely up to him to decide. As a simple example, if he copies Gwen's superpowers now, he will soon be able to get a new free reward. Although his copying ability has certain limitations, the free rewards obtained by copying cannot be as powerful as the conventional rewards such as Infinite Ultron, Doctor Strange, and the power of Odin. But the advantage of free rewards is that he can choose by himself. The system opened a new reward function, which was the happiest thing for him in the past week. Apart from this, other things are a bit boring. Let's not talk about adapting to serum and negative energy. The military technology laboratory alone has caused him a lot of headaches recently. He originally thought that with his current wealth, it would not be a big problem to open a military science and technology laboratory. However, after the real start, he realized how troublesome it was. A lot of money, this is nothing. The problems that can be solved by spending money are basically not problems. The trouble is the various top-notch equipment that the laboratory needs to use. He now finally knows why many top scientists are affiliated with various large groups and institutions. In order to solve the problem of experimental equipment, Russell found Hydra. Although he did nothing after joining Hydra, he borrowed the power of Hydra in advance, and I believe they would not refuse. Besides, he will become the leader of Hydra in the future. In order to solve the problem in the laboratory as soon as possible, he did not hesitate to contact Bakshi directly. After listening to his request, Bakshi was stunned for several seconds before reacting. Although he didn't know what Russell was going to do, after hearing that Russell planned to study the endosymbiotic armor, he immediately agreed without saying a word. Don't you just want some experimental equipment? No problem, I'll give it all to you. Not to mention experimental equipment, even if Russell wanted a blonde and black-haired female assistant in a white coat, there would be no problem. With the help of Hydra, Russell's military science and technology laboratory was quickly established. Octopus Monster Military Technology Laboratory. The incompetent Russell directly used the name of the firm. When the lab was established, Russell personally drove Peter to the lab. The laboratory is located in Manhattan. Although it is not in those well-known office buildings, the surrounding environment is not bad, and the transportation is also very convenient. There are 3 floors in the laboratory. The first floor is the hall, reception room, restaurant, the second floor is the laboratory, and the third floor is the office. Although Peter made up for half a month of military technology knowledge, when he came to the laboratory on the second floor and saw all kinds of instruments that he couldn't even name, he was still a minor and inevitably appeared shocked. Look. Besides Russell and Peter, there are more than 10 experimental assistants in white coats in the laboratory on the second floor. These experimental assistants are all female, and they are all young women with good stature and appearance. Perhaps it was because he knew that Russell didn't have a good opinion of black people. These female assistants were all white and Asian. After seeing these experimental assistants arranged by Bakshi, Russell increasingly felt the need to bring Hydra, a long-established organization, back on track. Hydra and Bakshi originally planned to arrange for several experienced scientists to come over, but Russell refused them without thinking. Let the Hydra scientists and Peter work together on the endosymbiotic armor, and know what will happen without thinking. Although Russell doesn't mind giving Hydra a little sweetness, such as revealing some unimportant derivative technologies on the endosymbiotic armor to Hydra. But he will not give the core technology of the armor. Whether it is the all-liquid smart metal technology of the armor, or the energy and operating system used by the armor, etc. These technologies are top-notch technologies that even Tony has not yet developed. Not to mention, the energy core used by the endosymbiotic battle armor is much more advanced than the small arc reactor that Tony is currently using. Tony's current reactor uses palladium metal, which will cause self-poisoning if used for a long time. He won't be able to solve this problem until he discovers new elements from Howard's exhibition model. After asking the shy-faced Peter to greet the female assistants who were bulging and wearing black silk, Russell came to the office on the third floor alone. After closing the door, he took the endosymbiotic battle armor out of the system space. He did not dress up, but let the battle armor turn on the sentry mode. The so-called sentry mode is actually to let the battle armor perform tasks independently without the user. Because there is no wearer, the helmet shape that Warframe now opens is the normal armor shape, rather than the low-key shape that exposes the face and hair. When the endosymbiotic battle armor appeared, Russell went straight to the sofa chair behind the desk and sat down, and said to the artificial intelligence number 3 in the battle armor, "Check all the systems in the laboratory, change the permissions, reset the firewall, set private servers and databases, I want the lab to be clean." "Okay, sir," the artificial intelligence system number 3 of the battle armor said quickly, and the electronically synthesized man's voice sounded. In terms of performance, the AI number 3 used by the endosymbiotic Warframe will not be worse than Tony's Jarvis. But unlike Jarvis, who is backed by Stark Industries, number 3 can do much less now. If nothing else, the ability to mobilize various resources alone makes number 3 inferior to Jarvis. Jarvis can mobilize and use all the resources of Stark Industries, such as satellites and servers. Although the performance of number 3 is not worse than that of Jarvis, all the number 3 can use now are the various systems on the armor body. Of course, if Russell agrees with number 3 to do the hacking, let it hack into the equipment of other groups and institutions, and give it some time to develop what Jarvis can do, it can do the same. But for now, Russell has no such idea. The world is already chaotic enough, and he doesn't want to cause an omnic crisis like Ultron in this world. Number 3 manipulated the armor to the front of the desk, turned the index finger of his right hand into an electronic socket, and inserted it into the computer interface in front of Russell. This laboratory was built with the help of Hydra. You don't have to think about it to know that Hydra must have hidden a lot of backends in the laboratory. Although Russell is not a top hacker like Sky, it doesn't matter, he has no 3. Not to mention the intrusion of the laboratory's system from the inside, even if it is from the outside. For number 3, it is nothing more than the difference in time. When number 3 inspected the laboratory according to his own instructions, Russell picked up a piece of white paper and scribbled on it. Although Peter is a very smart boy, it is not easy for him to develop a new set of military technology from scratch. Russell has high hopes for Peter, but now, he does not intend to let Peter do something beyond his ability. Peter is not Tony, and he can't develop a battle armor by himself, so Russell's early arrangements for Peter are very simple. Upgrade the weapon system of the endosymbiotic warframe. In the current endosymbiotic battle armor, the main weapon systems are only the arc pulse gun in the palm and the cluster gun in the chest. Although there are several different modes of arc pulse cannon and cluster cannon, in general, the current weapon system of Warframe is not particularly large. Even with those scattered auxiliary combat systems, the battle armor is now a little far from Russell's goal. Unlike Tony, Russell has a strong personal strength. So his positioning for the armor is not the same as Tony's. Fire cannon. He doesn't need the armor to have two amazing melee capabilities, what he needs is a firepower turret that can provide a lot of firepower at any time. From this point of view, his positioning of the armor will be more inclined to the firepower output like War Machine. The War Machine that Colonel Rhodes first used was modified from the Whiteboard Mark II. After the upgrade and transformation of Hammer Industries, the Whiteboard Mark II with little firepower has become a War Machine with amazing firepower. Russell does not intend to let Hammer Industries intervene in the transformation of the armor, so he will leave the matter of firepower enhancement to Peter to solve. A Gatling machine gun was installed on the back, and it was blue fire. Miniature armor-piercing projectiles, air-to-air missiles, anti-armor missiles, etc. are also added. Of course, the laser weapon can't fall either. Russell quickly drew according to his own imagination. At the beginning, he was referring to Colonel Rhodes' War Machine. But the more weapons are added to it, the more the appearance of the battle armor develops into the appearance of another high-tech body. In the end, the armor changed completely. Forehead. Looking at the battle armor on the design draft, Russell frowned slightly. His painting skills are not bad, at least he painted what he wanted. However, the transformed endosymbiotic battle armor is a little bit like a high-tech body called Gundam. No, it's not a little bit similar, it's just another form of Gundam. Looking at the design draft in his hand, a sentence popped into his mind. A real man is about to open Zagu. Gundam belongs to teenagers, and Zaku belongs to men. Drive the handsome Gundam body to gallop on the battlefield, swept the universe, made indelible feats, and became a hero admired by everyone. Fame, status, and love are all at your fingertips. Which teenager doesn't want such a brilliant life? However, this is the only treatment for the protagonist. As the general public, as a non-RMB player without any innate advantages, as an unofficial NPC of Earth OL, ordinary people can only rely on their own efforts and sweat to drive the mass production machine Zaku in the battlefield filled with gunpowder smoke and use their lives and blood, in exchange for valuable experience and a chance to survive. If there is no excellent body performance, then use skilled operation skills to make up for it. If there is no innate talent and background support, then exchange it with sweat and blood. If you don't have advanced weapons and equipment, then you can fight the enemy recklessly with a thermal axe and a real gun. Although the mass-produced Zaku is not as handsome and powerful as the Gundam, the drivers of Zaku, with the only weapons, have kept their faith and dignity. Men, you should know your position clearly, stand at 30, be free from confusion at 40, and know the destiny at 50. Men, after recognizing the essence of life, they should still work hard, persevere, love, and be the real man who stands upright and would rather die than accept his fate. As Russell redrawn the design drawings, he recalled all kinds of pictures left by Zaku in his mind. Soon, another modified form of the battle armor was drawn. Unlike the Gundam with its handsome motorized tail, the Zaku type armor is much rougher. Russell carefully looked at the two completely different Gundam type armors and Zaku type armors, and finally made a decision. Only children make choices, adults want all of them. Not only the two battle armor designs of Gundam and Zaku, but even the original modified design similar to War Machine, Russell has also retained it. Anyway, the endosymbiotic battle armor has the ability to deform, it doesn't matter if there are more forms, at most it is just a little bit of hard work from Peter. Russell completed the design sketch of the fighter modification, and on number 3 also completed the inspection and enhancement of the laboratory system. When number 3's right index finger controlling the armor changed back to its normal form, Russell handed number 3 the design sketch in his hand. This is the upgrade and modification of the battle armor, take a look. Although number 3 is not a real life, but an artificial intelligence, Russell decided to respect his opinion. Okay, sir. Without any hesitation, number 3 quickly browsed the sketches handed by Russell. Number 3 doesn't know what Gundam and Zaku are. However, he still has his own aesthetic. After reading the sketch handed by Russell, Number 3 picked up the pencil on the table and began to revise the sketch. After a few minutes, the design sketches that fit the aesthetic of Number 3 were completed. Number 3 did not change Russell's original design, but added 100 million little details to it, which made the design look a lot taller. Russell glanced at the sketch handed back by Number 3 and nodded with satisfaction. Just follow these sketches to upgrade. I want all 3 forms. By the way, Peter doesn't have any social experience. When you are in the laboratory, take care of him more. Don't let him be sold without knowing it. Number 3 nodded quickly and replied in an electronically synthesized male voice, "Okay, sir." After putting away Number 3's revised design, Russell took Number 3 back to the laboratory on the second floor. Before he entered the laboratory, he heard the coquettish laughter from the laboratory. Forehead. Wouldn't little Peter have been eaten by those female assistants? Thinking of this, Russell quickened his pace. When he returned to the laboratory with Number 3, the scene in the laboratory slightly exceeded his expectations. Little Peter was not eaten by these Victoria's Secret model-like female assistants. It's just that little Peter is sitting on the chair with a blushing face, his clothes are a little messy, and there are conspicuous lipstick marks on his tender face and neck. Although little Peter was not completely eaten by these female assistants, judging from his current appearance, he should have been taken advantage of by these female assistants. After seeing him come back with No. 3, little Peter quickly stood up, ran out of Yin Yang Yan Yan, and came to Russell. "Sir, Peter wanted to say something, but before he finished speaking, Russell interrupted him. "You're almost an adult, so there's nothing to be ashamed of." Russell patted Peter on the shoulder, then bent down and whispered into Peter's ear, "It's fun, but be careful. If you had kids before graduation, your pretty aunt would kill me." After speaking, Russell ignored the blushing Peter and put the design sketch in his hand. "This is a preliminary upgrade plan. I will let Number 3 assist you. If you need anything, you can tell Number 3 or those assistants at any time." "Number 3?" Peter asked suspiciously. "Number 3 is the artificial intelligence of the battle armor," Russell explained. Looking at the silver white armor standing beside Russell, Peter couldn't help but look surprised. Although he is a very smart high school student, things like artificial intelligence and high-tech armor are still far from his life. He likes watching movies, and he is no stranger to artificial intelligence and high-tech armors commonly seen in sci-fi movies. But this is the first time he has seen these things in the real world. Peter held the design sketch in his hand and stared intently at the endosymbiotic battle armor. Just like him, those beautiful assistants in white coats and black silk also stared at the armor. Although these beautiful assistants seem harmless to humans and animals, their beautiful appearance and attractive body may even make people doubt whether they really have scientific research ability. But don't forget, they are all from Hydra. Although Hydra had the idea of using beauty tricks on Russell, the people they sent would definitely not be vases with big chests and no brains. Although these beautiful assistants sent by Hydra are quite eye-catching, Russell did not pay too much attention to them. He is indeed a man who cannot stand the test, but he is not a man who will be easily tricked. After handing the design sketch to Peter and giving him a cheering look, Russell left the laboratory and returned to the office on the third floor. Professional matters should be left to professionals. Although Peter is not yet a professional and does not have much experience, with the help of No. 3, Russell believes that he will grow rapidly. As for No. 3, Number 3 is already a very mature artificial intelligence, and he knows how to upgrade himself. Russell fished and played games in the office, while Peter and Number 3 worked hard in the laboratory. The days passed like this. Although Peter still goes to school during the day and only has time after school, because the laboratory is located in a neighborhood with a good security environment, he doesn't have to go home after dark. This is not Hell's Kitchen. Even if he goes home at night, Peter will not be in any danger. While Peter and Number 3 were working hard, Russell also found time to do some things besides playing games. For example, turning into a superhero Serum and fighting a few crimes in New York. He suddenly ran to be a superhero, of course not because he was bored, but with his own plans. In the underground world, travelers are already famous enough. Even the veritable underworld emperor Jin Bing wanted to give him more or less face. But in normal human society, apart from being famous in the detective industry, he is not well known in other fields. He is not particularly interested in the identity of a superhero. However, he is intrigued by the enormous economic value behind superhero status. In this regard, the Fantastic Four is a good example. Before they became superheroes, although Mr. Fantastic and others were not particularly poor, they had nothing to do with the rich. However, after they became superheroes and revealed their identities in public, the four of them ushered in a bumper harvest of fame and fortune. Although Russell has an excellent ability to make money, his previous means of making money were too simple. To put it simply, it was all hard-earned money. If he can play the name of a superhero, not only will he be famous, but his octopus laboratory will also be famous. The current laboratory is mainly used to upgrade the armor, but if there is an opportunity to develop the laboratory into a military giant like Stark Industries, he will not mind. Not only can you be famous, but you can also get huge economic returns. It's okay to do this business of superheroes. Besides these, he also has some small selfishness. Gwen. He is very interested in Spider-Woman Gwen. Although Gwen is a little worse than Diana, she is also a rare beauty. More importantly, Gwen is also a beauty with spider superpowers. That kind of softness is exciting when you think about it. In order to play a superhero better, he also specially set himself a white battle suit with black lines. Said to be a battle suit, but it was actually another form he transformed with Serum. The monster-like Serum didn't look like a good person at first, so he changed the image of the Serum a little. He did not use Gwen's tight-fitting uniform design, but changed the white symbiote into a modern combat uniform, and made a little reference to the style of the endosymbiotic battle armor. After designing his new image, he started his superhero journey. Fight street crime. Save the dangerous masses. His superhero plan is simple. First of all, let the people of New York know that there is a superhero called Serum in New York. Then, wait for a suitable opportunity. For example, after solving a major incident, reveal your true identity. Finally, refer to the practices of the Fantastic Four and the Superhero Seven, and become a rich and famous superhero that is loved by the masses. Although the plan is simple, if all goes well, he should be able to become a well-known superhero faster than Tony. From another perspective, this is also a whitewashing plan he created for himself. If it is said that Jin and these gang leaders are washing themselves through charitable donations and other means, then becoming a superhero is Russell's whitewashing method. Although after becoming a superhero, he will not be able to do whatever he wants as before. At least when using those methods, there will be some restrictions. But that's not a problem at all. As long as he doesn't use means in public, there won't be much of a problem. With the aura of a superhero, most of his actions will be actively rationalized and justified. Even if it doesn't seem so reasonable and just, ordinary people will think that it is just. Besides, after the killer has been doing it for so long, it's time to give himself a brighter identity. 4 p.m. The Queen. A black Chevrolet was speeding down the street, trying to get rid of the police car behind it. In addition to the 4 or 5 police cars behind him, a news helicopter followed unhurriedly, conducting real-time reports on the scene. This is a group of robbers who have just finished robbing a bank. The car was racing all the way, and the robbers in the car kept firing at the police car behind. High-speed chase, police and gang shootout, bank robbery. This crime, which was supposed to be an ordinary robbery, quickly became the headlines of major news media because of the live broadcast. Just as this group of robbers frantically attacked the chasing police car, a white figure fell from the sky like a shooting star on the street ahead. This white figure is none other than Russell. This is the 5th day that he started the superhero whitewashing program. After landing on the street from the roof of the building next to him, he moved his hands and stood there waiting for the robber's car. Although the robber driver in the car saw him, he had no intention of avoiding it at all. Instead, he stepped on the accelerator to the bottom and tried to directly kill Russell, who was blocking the road. The idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. Boom. The robber's car did hit Russell, but it wasn't him who was knocked away. The speeding car seemed to hit a thick wall, the front of the car dented and was forcibly stopped. The robbers in the car never expected such an ending. Not only did these robbers not think of it, but also the policemen and reporters on the helicopter behind them. Not to mention the ordinary people who witnessed this scene through live broadcast. After stopping the rushing car, Russell pushed aside the car that had no repair value, came to the door, and tore off the deformed door. Inside the car sat 4 robbers who were crying in pain and covered in blood. Glancing at them, Russell didn't hesitate. White tentacles gushed out from his right hand and forcibly pulled them out of the car. Because his actions were so rough, the robber who was already injured was injured even more seriously. However, he didn't care about this issue at all. After pulling the 4 robbers out of the car, he controlled the symbiote to possess them and treated their injuries a little. If he were a traveler now, he would definitely send the 4 of them away with 1 bullet per person. But now, as a superhero, he can't. Not only can he not send these 4 guys to hell, he can't even hurt them too much. The camera of the news helicopter is now firmly aimed at him, and it is broadcasting live what he is doing. For the so-called political correctness and human rights, even if these 4 guys are robbers, he has to ensure the safety of these 4 guys' lives. At least before handing it over to the police, he had to make sure that the 4 guys were alive. The 4 robbers never thought that after forcibly stopping them, Russell actually started to treat them again. The symbiote's possession made their injuries recover quickly. Russell did not fully recover from their injuries. When the injuries of the 4 robbers turned into minor injuries, he bound the 4 of them with spider-like white tentacles. It didn't take long for the police behind to surround them and take away the 4 unlucky guys. When the police handcuffed the 4 robbers, Russell removed their white tentacles. Although the white tentacles he is using now look similar to the spider silk Gwen uses, they are completely different. The spider silk used by Gwen will automatically decompose, and it doesn't matter if it is recycled or not. And the white tentacles he used would not disappear for no reason. He didn't want his symbiotes to fall into the hands of some government agency. For example, S.H.I.E.L.D. The robber was taken away, and the sheriff who led the team quickly came to Russell and thanked him. Although the sheriff did not know who Russell was, he was sure of one thing, that Russell was not a bad person. This is the 5th day of Russell's superhero whitewashing program. In the past 5 days, he has helped the police catch criminals a lot. Not to mention, today alone, he carried out 3 heroic activities. Rescue people trapped at the scene of a fire, prevent a car accident, and now help the police catch a bank robber. After the sheriff thanked him, he began to instruct his subordinates to collect evidence at the scene. According to common sense, Russell should leave the scene now and hand over the scene to the police. But he didn't do it. The reason is very simple, because he is now being interviewed. Do good deeds, don't leave your name. In flower gardeners, this is a traditional virtue. But in America, it's not a virtue to do good deeds anonymously. Especially for Russell, who plays a superhero, doing good deeds must leave a name. Of course, this name is not to announce his true identity, but to leave his hero code. In the past 5 days, his heroic deeds have also been reported by some news media, but until now, New Yorkers don't know what his new hero is called. Although Russell has never been a superhero before, he is no stranger to how to be a superhero. Instead of referring to the practices of Fantastic Four, Gwen and others, he now refers to the hero team of a certain universe, the Superhero 7. Compared with the superheroes of the Marvel and DC universes, the Superhero 7 is the best embodiment of the economic value of superheroes. Hello sir, this is Christina, a reporter from the Daily Bugle. I would like to ask, what prompted you to stand up for justice and help the weak? What do you think of superheroes such as the Fantastic Four and Spider-Woman? What should people call you? I have to say that American journalists are very efficient. Even before the follow-up support from the police arrived at the scene, reporters such as Christina had already arrived at the scene. In addition to Christine, Russell also saw other reporters running towards him quickly, for fear of missing the opportunity to interview. Miss Christina, hello. Why do I stand up to defend justice and help the weak? The reason is actually very simple, because people need help, and I just have the strength to help people. Someone once said that with great power comes great responsibility. As people living in New York is our home, and when there is crime and disaster in New York, I think we have an obligation to protect the city of New York, especially when you have the power. As for how I view Fantastic Four and Spider-Woman, I think they are role models that I need to learn from. I respect and support them from the bottom of my heart, and hope that one day I can be as good as them. About the name, if you like, you can call me Serum, which is the kind of serum that specializes in the treatment of diseases and poisoning. After answering Christina's question, Russell apologized to the reporters who came later. Then, under the gazes of people, he shot white tentacles towards the building next to him. Like Spider-Woman Gwen, the tentacles quickly disappeared from people's sight. After more than half an hour, he had been released from the serum agent form and returned to the laboratory. After returning to his office, he first took out a bottle of Scotch whiskey from the wine cabinet and poured himself a glass. Then, he turned on the TV and watched the news. As he expected, after he appeared on the scene to catch the robber and was interviewed by Christina, the protagonist of the news immediately changed from the robber to him. Although he only answered Christina's question, other reporters also heard his answer when he answered the question. Now, several news channels that are broadcasting live broadcasts have similar headlines. A new hero is born. Serum, New York's new superhero Serum. While tasting whiskey, he watched the hosts and guests express various opinions. The most discussed, of course, is his true identity. Regarding this issue, anyone can guess. Some say he is an agent of the government's secret service, some say he is a veteran of the army, and some say he is a policeman who has awakened superpowers. The main basis for these speculations is the white combat uniform he wears. Although his battle suit was transformed from a symbiote, in terms of style, it is very similar to the battle suit used by government departments. In addition to speculation that he is a government agency, there is now a speculation that has been supported by many people. Spider-Woman's boyfriend. His battle suit and Spider-Woman's uniform are dominated by black and white, and the way he leaves the scene is very similar to Spider-Woman's. Although his spider silk looks a little different, in terms of shape, his white tentacles are exactly the same as the spider silk used by Gwen. So, the speculation that he was Spider-Woman's boyfriend came naturally. The media and the public will have such speculation. Russell is not surprised. In fact, this is the result of his active guidance. As for the reason, of course, it was because he had some special thoughts about Gwen. Otherwise, he would be too lazy to do these little tricks. After casually watching the news report, he turned off the TV. Now, the name of the superhero serum has been typed out. In the following days, as long as he continues to do some heroic acts, the name of the superhero serum will become more and more popular, and finally become a superhero with the same name as the Fantastic Four and others. At that time, he will almost be able to consider revealing his true identity. After turning off the TV, he called Diana, who was on a business trip to Israel to investigate newly unearthed ruins in the Dead Sea. Israel is 7 hours faster than New York. In terms of time, Diana should have just finished a day's work. It didn't take long before the call was connected, and Diana's voice came from the other end of the phone. Russell first chatted with Diana about small topics between lovers, and then told Diana some of his recent activities. Even if he didn't say it, after Diana came back, she would know what he did during this time. Rather than let Diana find out when she comes back, it's better to tell her now. In this way, at least some unpleasant things can be avoided. After listening to his story, Diana didn't say anything, just told him to pay attention to safety. At the end of the call, Diana gave him a small reminder in a seemingly casual tone. Don't mess with flowers, especially not to bring other women home. Although Diana had no cleanliness and even acquiesced to some of Russell's little hobbies, the bottom line was that she couldn't bring other women home. If this bottom line is crossed, Russell can guarantee that Diana will never mind letting him experience how sharp the Vulcan sword is. Having lived with Diana for so long, Russell certainly knew what to do and what not to do. He wouldn't bring other women home without Diana's reminder. Things that can be solved just by opening a room in a hotel outside do not have to be so complicated. Besides, even if you don't open a house, you can do it in the car. There are always more ways than difficulties. As long as there is interest, any place can become a battlefield. After hanging up the phone, Russell sighed slightly. Diana won't be back in a week or two, which means that during this time, he can still only sleep alone with his pillow on his back. Putting the phone aside, he opened an encrypted file on the computer. As soon as the file was opened, Gwen's photo appeared in his sight. Although he didn't meet Gwen again during this time, he commissioned a private detective to investigate Gwen in the black market. Gwen Stacy, 20, a sophomore at Empire State University, is currently an intern at the Osborne Group. His father, George Stacy, was the commissioner of the New York Police Department, and his mother, Helen Stacy, was a housewife. Gwen in this world has no younger brother and is the only child in the family. After looking at the information returned by the private investigator's investigation, Russell drank the whiskey in the glass in one gulp. Fantastic Four Headquarters, Baxter Building. In the living area on the top floor, Jonathan Stone, the most bohemian of the Fantastic Four, lies on the sofa, stuffing popcorn into his mouth and watching news reports about superhero serums. As one of New York's most recognizable superheroes, Jonathan is no stranger to superheroes making headlines. To be precise, he himself is a frequent visitor to these headlines. Looking at Russell on TV, Jonathan frowned slightly. Although he didn't know who this new serum was, the pictures of Russell facing the interview made him see something different. This guy is very good at dealing with the media. This discovery made Jonathan feel an indescribable sense of crisis. Among the superheroes that have become famous so far, Jonathan the Human Torch definitely knows how to deal with the media the most. Or in other words, the person who likes to appear in media shots and be surrounded by flashlights the most. Other superheroes are eager to stay away from reporters completely, but Jonathan is just the opposite. If it wasn't for Mr. Fantastic Reed and her sister Susan, the Invisible Girl, he would even have the idea of inviting the show crew to the mansion for a 24-hour reality show shoot. When the popcorn in the paper bucket was finished, Jonathan had a decision. He's going to hold a press conference. He did what he said, and saw him crumple the empty popcorn paper bucket into a ball and throw it into the trash can like a shot. 3 no sticks. The idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. Jonathan's crumpled paper bucket didn't even touch the side of the trash can. Jonathan ignored the crooked paper bucket, got up and walked towards Mr. Fantastic Reed's laboratory. Although he always wanted to be the head of the Fantastic Four, it was a pity that even his own sister Susan did not support him. After coming to Reed's laboratory, Jonathan was not polite, and directly expressed his thoughts to Reed. Russell didn't know what happened in the Baxter building. Right now, he was testing the armor in the laboratory on the 2nd floor. After this period of transformation, Peter and Number 3 have achieved some visible gains. The inner symbiotic battle armor was transformed into the appearance of Zaku by the two of them. At least it looks like this. The endosymbiotic battle armor is made of fully intelligent liquid metal, and the change of the shape is not difficult for the endosymbiotic battle armor. In order to make the battle armor in the form of Zaku more in line with the design drawing, Peter and Number 3 specially created a beam rifle and a thermal axe for the battle armor. The current Zaku armor is military green as a whole. Except for the helmet. This is not Russell's request, but Number 3's own decision. Army green body color, light blue helmet. Although it looks a little incongruous, it is better than a green helmet. In order to meet the requirements of the Russell Firepower platform, the Zaku armor has more external interfaces than the original armor. Behind the armor, a large number of external weapon interfaces are reserved. Because of time, these external ports have not been connected to weapons yet. Light speed rifle, thermal axe, arc pulse cannon in the palm, cluster cannon in the chest. After testing the performance of the Zaku armor a little in the laboratory, Russell undressed. Based on the current armor, mass-produced models were developed. The cluster gun on the chest and the pulse gun on the palm were cancelled. The beam rifle was changed to a kinetic weapon, the thermal axe was retained, and the Gatling machine gun and individual anti-tank guns were added. Wait for external weapons. The material is changed to ordinary gold titanium alloy, and the operating system retains the basic functions. The energy system is changed to a charging form, and the battery life is 3 hours. Cancel the flight system and change to low-altitude ejection flight. Try to keep the cost within $30 million. Russell's idea of making the Octopus Lab a military giant is not just a talk, he really intends to do so. Now that Stark Industries is gradually giving up military orders, Russell doesn't mind turning the cake that originally belonged to Stark Industries into his own. Apart from selling to the military, he also doesn't mind selling to Hydra. As for the price, a set of $50 million should be no problem. Just when Russell was going to let number 3 change the armor back to the endosymbiotic form, he suddenly remembered a paragraph. A paragraph of what Master Ma said in Das Kapital. If there is a 20% profit, the capital will be ready to move. If there is a 50% profit, the capital will take risks. If there is a 100% profit, the capital will dare to risk hanging. If there is a 300% profit, the capital will dare to trample all the laws of the world. 30 million cost, 50 million selling price. Russell suddenly felt that he was a little too conscientious. Cannot be done. Since everyone has decided to be a capitalist in the capitalist country of America, how can there be such a thing as a conscience? No, this is not what a qualified capitalist should do. Russell complained to himself a few words in his heart. Then, he turned his head to look at the battle armor in the form of Zaku, and said to number 3 inside, continue to weaken the performance of the Zaku mass production machine, and control the cost to $20 million. Okay, sir. Number 3 did not hesitate and replied immediately. The cost of $20 million, the price of $120 million. 500% profit. This is the conscience that a qualified capitalist should have. As for whether he would be hanged from a street lamp because of this conscience, Russell was not worried at all. In America, a country where capital has the final say, it is unrealistic to hang a capitalist with a conscience without thinking. After letting number 3 change the battle armor back to the endosymbiotic state, Russell left the laboratory and returned to the office on the 3rd floor. The Zaku armor will be the ace product in the early stage of the Octopus Monster military laboratory. Whether it can turn the cake that originally belonged to Stark Industries into the Octopus Monster laboratory basically depends on these Zaku armors. Back at the office, he called a Republican senator. In the past few years as a killer, he has established some personal connections of his own. This Republican senator is one of them. After talking to the senator about his thoughts, the senator who owed him favors readily agreed to his request. His request was very simple. He wanted to meet some big bosses in the military and get in touch with each other. For the senator, his request is not difficult at all. With the product and the potential buyers, the next thing is basically no problem. After hanging up the phone, Russell started his fishing life again. Play games. After finishing the blacksmithing game, playing games has become his first choice for fishing and relaxing. Time is fleeting. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Russell continued his superhero whitewashing plan, while paying attention to the progress of Zaku's armor. According to number 3, it only takes 2 more days for the first Zaku armor to come out. At that time, he will be able to take the battle armor to meet the military bosses and turn the laboratory from a simple research institution into a veritable military-industrial enterprise. For the Octopus Monster Lab, this is a crucial step, and it is also an important step for him to become a capitalist. Brooklyn. Russell, who transformed into a Serum agent, has just completed today's Do Good Deeds a Day mission and handed over a group of robbers who were robbing the bank's car to the police who had just arrived at the scene. Just when he was about to shoot out his tentacles and leave the scene, an orange-red fireman flew towards him at high speed like a missile. Before he could leave, the flying fireman came to him and stopped him who was trying to leave. Thunderbolt. You don't need to ask to know that this burning man is the Human Torch Jonathan of the Fantastic Four. After flying in front of Russell, Jonathan quickly released the flames on his body and returned to his normal human form. As the flames disappeared, Jonathan, who looked like Captain America's twin brother, said to Russell, "Hey, buddy, don't go yet." Looking at Jonathan, who looks exactly like Captain America but has a completely different temperament, Russell frowned slightly. If Captain America is the perfect soldier with integrity, then Jonathan of the Human Torch is a bohemian playboy. Although they have different temperaments, apart from their looks, they have one thing in common. Classic American buttocks. Because the uniform is a tights, Jonathan's American buttocks look even taller than Captain America's. Although Russell has not met Jonathan of the Human Torch, he is no stranger to Jonathan. Jonathan is now wearing the Fantastic Four's uniform, dark blue tight-fitting uniform, with various brand logos plastered on the chest and back. These colorful brand logos make the Fantastic Four logo on the uniform look unremarkable. Perhaps seeing Russell looking at the brand logo on his body, Jonathan smiled and said, "Are you also interested in brand sponsorship?" "No." Glancing at the familiar Jonathan, Russell replied quickly. Without giving them a chance to continue their conversation, a large group of reporters rushed up and slapped the two of them wildly. The flash flashed wildly. Jonathan smiled and greeted the reporters around him like a Hollywood star. When greeting the reporter, Jonathan once again showed his familiar character, and put his right hand on Russell's shoulder. If there was no reporter in front of him, Russell really wanted to make this familiar. The guy threw it straight out. "Mr. Serum, do you really want to form a new hero team with Mr. Jonathan? What do you think of the new teams, Thunderbolt Serum? Who is the leader of the new team? Will the Fantastic Four become the Fantastic Five?" The reporters scrambled to ask questions of Russell and Jonathan, eager to put the microphone directly in their faces. Russell also watched Jonathan's press conference a few days ago. But he had absolutely no idea of teaming up with Jonathan. Even if he were to team up with other superheroes, he would team up with Gwen, not Jonathan. "In our new team, there is no leader, everyone is equal. I have sent an invitation to Mr. Serum on behalf of the Fantastic Four, and Baxter Mansion welcomes him at any time as long as he wishes." Jonathan smiled as he answered questions from reporters. This guy. Looking at Jonathan, who was chatting with reporters, Russell decided to take the initiative back. "The Fantastic Four is a team of superheroes that I admire, and every one of them is excellent. Especially Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman are the role models I have always learned from. I'm personally looking forward to working with the Fantastic Four, but so far, I haven't been invited by Mr. Fantastic." Russell's words were very euphemistic, but the reporters at the scene immediately understood the meaning of his words. His meaning is very simple, that is, whether he joins the Fantastic Four or not. Jonathan said no, because Jonathan is not the leader of the Fantastic Four. Chapter 71. Strictly speaking, a heroic team like the Fantastic Four has no real leader. After all, everyone's status is the same, no one's status is higher than others. But as long as it is a team, it is inevitable that there will be problems of voice and leadership. Mr. Fantastic Reed may not have the idea of being a leader, but in the Fantastic Four, his leadership is higher than Jonathan. It's actually quite normal for this to happen. Because Jonathan is indeed a little too unreliable. Before he awakened his superpowers, Jonathan was not a quiet guy. Not to mention Mr. Fantastic Reed and the Stone Man, even his own sister Susan, the Invisible Girl, gave him a lot of headaches. In a team of 4, 3 of them thought he was unreliable. Then his position in the team can be imagined. Although Jonathan has a more bohemian personality, he is not stupid. Like those reporters, he immediately heard the meaning of Russell's words. Jonathan did not expect that Russell would give him no face at all. If it wasn't for the cameraman in front of them still taking pictures of them frantically, Jonathan's face would have long been unable to hold a smile on his face. Although these reporters don't know what kind of relationship Russell and Jonathan have, but Russell's answer made them keenly aware of the smell of their relationship. After answering the reporter's question, Russell ignored Jonathan, who was a little embarrassed, and shot his tentacles toward the building next to him. Then, under the watchful eyes of Jonathan and the reporters, he left the scene with his tentacles. Looking at Russell's disappearing back, Jonathan felt like a clown now. After Russell left, he had no idea of continuing to deal with these reporters. Flames erupted from his body, turned into a burning man, rose into the sky, and quickly disappeared. These little episodes between Russell and Jonathan made headlines the next day without any suspense. After all, this is their first meeting between the two superheroes, old and new. Russell didn't take this little episode to heart at all. 2 more days passed. The first Zaku mass-produced battle armor was finally born. Number 3 and Peter did not disappoint Russell and managed to keep the cost within $20 million. After personally testing the shrunken Zaku armor, Russell called the Republican senator. "The product has come out, it's time to meet and chat with these military bosses." In some estate in the suburbs of New York, under the introduction of the senator, Russell successfully met the 3 U.S. military leaders who were at least major generals. Among the 3 military bosses, Russell was pleasantly surprised to discover that he actually knew one of them. General Ross. Looking at General Ross wearing the uniform of the U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General. Several names quickly flashed in Russell's mind. Bruce Banner, Betty Ross, Emil Bronsky. I don't know if Bruce Banner in this world has mutated. After returning home, I have to find an opportunity to investigate. Although many names and thoughts flashed through his mind, Russell's expression did not change. As if he didn't know who General Ross was at all, he shook hands with them. After a polite greeting, Russell didn't waste everyone's time, and handed the Zaku armor information that had already been prepared to the three General Ross. Although General Ross is very interested in super soldiers. But what he is interested in is super soldiers like Captain America, not high-tech individual combat armors like Zaku armor. But even so, he still carefully browsed the Zaku armor information handed over by Russell. Although General Ross is not very interested, the other two generals have a lot of interest in the Zaku armor. The price of your armor is a bit too high, isn't it? One of the army major generals named Jack said to Russell. General Jack, expensive or cheap depends on what weapon you are comparing with. The Jericho missile is just as expensive, but the military still loves it, doesn't it? The price of $120 million does seem a bit expensive, but Russell is not worried about this problem at all. In the absence of similar competing products, unless the military can develop its own battle armor. Otherwise, even if the price of Zaku's armor is somewhat inflated, the military can only choose to purchase it from him. The power of the Jericho missile has been proven in actual combat, but your armor currently only has data on paper. General Jack continued. General, what you said is a bit wrong. There is no actual combat proof, just because the armor has just started production. General, if you are interested, I can provide battle armors for actual combat testing at any time. Russell replied humbly. Although he was full of confidence in the Zaku armor, General Jack was still a little unconvinced until he saw the results of the actual combat test. He has seen a lot of data on paper and in theory. When some military enterprises tried to obtain orders from the military, they also said that they could produce star destroyers. Although there was no immediate decision, General Jack and others still gave Russell a chance to prove the armor. They want to conduct actual combat tests on the Zaku armor at the military's test site. For their arrangement, Russell did not refuse. The military's order is not so easy to get. Don't let them see the actual effect. No matter how powerful, he said about the Zaku armor, it is impossible to get the order from the military. After agreeing on the time for the actual combat test, Russell left the study, intends to return to the laboratory. However, as soon as he came to the hall, General Ross, who had not spoken much, suddenly appeared in front of him. General, do you have something to do with me? Go to the tasting room to chat. Although this is the senator's manner, as General Ross, there is no problem in borrowing the senator's tasting room. In the tasting room, Russell and General Russell sat opposite each other. General, if you have something to say, why not say it directly? I don't have much interest in your Zaku armor, but I am very interested in you. General Ross looked at Russell with a serious expression and said slowly. Ah, General, I don't like men. Russell said with a frown. After hearing his topic, General Ross almost spit out the red wine in his mouth. You. After putting down the wine glass in his hand, General Ross looked at Russell with a serious face, and said again, I don't like men either. General Ross retorted righteously. It's just me and you here, and I won't go around in circles with you anymore. I know your identity in the underground world very well. I have a plan here, and I need a special person like you to join. Although General Ross didn't say it explicitly, Russell could roughly guess what his so-called special plan was. Don't you just want a team of super soldiers like Captain America? It's not hard to guess. General, you may have misunderstood a bit. I sell weapons to the military, but it doesn't mean that I want to be a weapon of the military. These are two completely different things. Russell was not surprised that General Ross knew his identity in the underground world. He didn't hide his true identity too much in the first place. General Ross wanted to investigate this, just make a phone call to find out. I don't need you to join the military. I know that superhuman beings like you don't really like to deal with official institutions. It's more about cooperation than joining. You do something for me, and I'll give you a corresponding report. Everyone gets what they need, just like a military contractor. General Ross looked at Russell and said, If you don't join, but just cooperate, then everyone can continue to chat. I don't know what trouble you want me to solve for you, General. Although Russell's identity in the underground world is the ace killer of the Continental Hotel, no one has ever stipulated that the killer can only do the work of the killer. As long as General Ross gives him the reward he is interested in, there is no problem in taking his commission. I want you to help me catch someone alive. General Ross's expression suddenly became extremely serious. Is it just capture alive? General, you should know that compared to capture alive, I'm better at sending targets to hell. Russell asked rhetorically. He can't die, he has to live. As long as you can help me capture him alive, your Zaku armor can not only be sold to Jack and Johnson, but also other weapons produced in your laboratory. I can also help you get orders from the military. Although Ross is only a lieutenant general in the Air Force, he is not the kind of civilian who only has rank but no real power. Not to mention his huge network of relationships in the military, his authority in the military alone is a force that cannot be ignored. Russell did not answer General Ross immediately, but pretended to be thinking seriously. Although General Ross hasn't said who the target is, what he said just now has made it clear that the target he wants to capture alive is probably Bruce Banner. Not only that, judging from the fact that he entrusted himself as an outsider, he should have tasted the taste of failure in the hands of Bruce Banner, so he would consider inviting him as an outsider to join the arrest operation. After thinking for a few minutes, he did not refuse, and agreed directly. Isn't it just to capture the Hulk? No problem. As long as you know the location of the Hulk, it shouldn't be difficult to catch the Hulk alive. General, you are so sincere. If I still refuse, it will be a little too shameless. General, who are you going to capture alive? Russell asked General Ross. The specific information of the target, I will tell you when we meet next time. I'll send someone to pick you up when your Zaku armor completes the actual combat test. After speaking, General Ross left the tasting room. After he left, Russell had no plans to stay in the manor, and drove a Porsche 911 back to the laboratory. Today, he just planned to sell the Zaku armor to the military, but he did not expect Ross among the military bosses contacted by the senator. What he didn't expect was that Ross actually entrusted him to capture the Hulk. After returning to the office, he logged into the black market forum and found an intelligence broker who had dealt with several times before. In the black market, anything can be bought and sold. Intelligence is one of the mainstream commodities. After sending a message to the intelligence broker who had never met, and prepaid the deposit, he withdrew from the black market forum and patiently waited for the intelligence broker's reply. 2 days later, Russell came to a military testing ground with his army green Zaku armor. This time, he did not see Ross, but only 2 major generals, Jack and Johnson. Ross didn't have much interest in Zaku armor. Not to mention that the Zaku armor that Russell is currently producing has no continuous flight capability, only low-altitude ejection flight. A battle armor that cannot continue to fly, even if it is replaced by other Air Force generals, it will not be of much interest. After greeting the 2 generals Jack and Johnson, Russell handed the armor to the testers arranged by the military. He won't wear the armor himself for testing, and the military won't let him do it. After all, the person who will go to the battlefield wearing the armor will not be him, but the military's own soldiers. Although the operating system of the Zaku war armor only retains the most basic functions, it is impossible to be as intimate as the endosymbiotic war armor. But it is still not difficult to operate. It didn't take long for the soldiers tested to get used to the operation of the armor. The next thing is very simple. The soldiers wearing the Zaku armor began to single out various active weapons in the test field. The test is over soon. The test results are also very satisfying. There is no suspense. The soldiers wearing the Zaku armor showed extremely powerful fighting ability, and almost won the victory one-sidedly. Russell was not surprised by this result. The Mark I that Tony knocked out in the cave could easily deal with the terrorists and help him escape. The crude Mark I can achieve such a brilliant record, and the Zaku armor whose performance far exceeds that of the Mark I can certainly perform better. After the test, the 2 generals Jack and Johnson made a unanimous choice. The first batch of military orders from the Octopus Monster Military Technology Laboratory has been successfully received 5 Zaku armors, totaling $600 million. Delivery in 1 month. Although Russell had enough funds to make the advance payment, for safety's sake, he still received half of the deposit in advance. The remaining half will be paid upon settlement. Of course, in return, the Zaku armor that was tested was left directly in the hands of the military. After receiving the order from the military, Russell returned to the laboratory happily. Although the $600 million order is not a big order, it is of great significance. Starting today, his Octopus lab has officially become a military-industrial enterprise. He handed over all the manufacturing of the armor to Number 3 and Little Peter. As for him, not long after returning to the laboratory, he boarded a plane to the Pentagon. According to the agreement, Ross sent someone to pick him up. Pentagon. Ross's office. At this moment, Ross, wearing a camouflage uniform, was sitting behind a desk with a thick Cuban cigar in his mouth. In front of him, two people were sitting. One is Russell, who has just arrived at the Pentagon. The other is Emil Bronsky, who is not very tall but sits upright. Although Bronsky looked fine, he was full of energy and looked like a serious soldier. But Russell was keenly aware that something was wrong. Bronsky was suppressing his emotions. Is this already injected with fortified serum? Thinking of this, Russell couldn't help but take a few more glances at Bronsky. Bronsky noticed his gaze and returned him a cold look. Russell did not show weakness, and looked at Bronsky. What are you looking at? Look at you. From Bronsky's eyes, Russell could see that he was unhappy with himself. Although he didn't know why Bronsky was upset with him, he didn't waste his brain cells thinking about it. There are many people who see him unhappy, and many people who want his life. But until now, he is still alive and well. After seeing Russell and Bronsky looking at each other, General Ross took off his Cuban cigar and coughed. Russell and Bronsky stopped looking at each other and looked at General Ross. This is the target's information, you should take a look first. After speaking, General Ross handed Russell the top-secret folder printed on the cover. Russell took the folder and quickly browsed it. As he imagined, this so-called top-secret document is about Bruce Banner. It contains detailed records of Bruce Banner's personal information. In addition to personal information, the rest is the details of some past arrests, as well as some unverified information. When General Ross made the entrustment, Russell guessed that General Ross had already suffered a loss from Banner, so he thought of inviting him as a foreign aide. The information replied by the intelligence broker also proved his guess. He not only bought information on Bruce Banner from an intelligence broker, but also on General Ross and his daughter Betty Ross. Before coming to the Pentagon, he knew that Banner had been missing for more than 2 years, but after reading the folder handed by General Ross, he found that he still underestimated Banner. General Ross not only suffered a loss in Banner's hands, but also suffered a considerable loss. Since the mutation in Banner's laboratory at Culver University, General Ross organized and directed many arrests. But without exception, the arrests all failed. The most recent one happened a week ago. The location is the port of Porto, Brazil. As before, the operation failed. Otherwise, there would be nothing for Russell. It was during this operation that Bronsky joined General Ross's arrest team. After reading the contents of the document and comparing it with the information in his mind, Russell closed the folder and said to General Ross, "The target you want to arrest is not small. If it were easy, I wouldn't let you come here." General Ross exhaled the smoke from his mouth and said slowly, "I can help you arrest him. Do you know his current location?" After reading the document, Russell knew that Banner would probably go back to Culver University to collect the research materials at that time. However, now he can't tell this information directly to General Ross. After all, in the eyes of General Ross, he just knew who the target was a few minutes ago. Where he is now, I don't know, but he will definitely go to Culver University. General Ross said quickly, "How do you know?" "We hacked the computer he left behind and obtained his last chat." Culver University and the Pentagon are both in Virginia, not too far apart. If you drive there, more than an hour is enough. Having said that, Banner is also unlucky enough. He had disappeared for more than 5 months. If he hadn't accidentally been injured in the processing factory, and he hadn't wiped off the blood, General Ross would never have been able to find him. This is life. After a casual chat with General Ross about the actions against Banner, Russell left General Ross's office. With him, there was Bronsky. Although the general invited you here, you'd better remember your identity. This is the military's action, not yours. Bronski put on his military cap and said coldly to Russell. After hearing Bronski's words, Russell replied with disdain, "Yes, this is indeed the action of your military. But unfortunately, you guys are too weak, so the general needs me as a foreign aid." Although Russell didn't know why Bronski was so hostile to him, since Bronski was so rude, he wouldn't be polite to Bronski. Isn't it just an elite veteran who was injected with a fortified serum? It's no big deal. Bronski didn't speak anymore, and gave Russell a gloomy look. Then, he left the Pentagon without looking back. When Bronski left, Russell followed General Ross's secretary out of the Pentagon. Culver University. After leaving the Pentagon, Russell came here alone. Although all kinds of evidence show that Banner will definitely come to Culver University to retrieve the original research materials, but when he will come, no one can tell. General Ross arranged a lot of manpower near Culver University, and also prepared a fully armed arrest team that could rush to the university at any time. As long as Banner shows up, the arresting team will come over in the shortest possible time. After coming to Culver University, Russell did not go to Professor Betty Ross, Banner's ex-girlfriend and daughter of General Ross, but wandered around the university. Looking at the female college students full of youthful vigor, he couldn't help but sigh. Young is good. After admiring these female college students on campus, he left the campus and went to the pizza restaurant where Banner and Betty often came. Stanley's Pizza. The owner of the restaurant is Stanley, an old man with white hair. This is an ordinary pizza restaurant. The environment is average, the taste is average, and the price is average. Russell originally planned to meet Stanley, the owner of the restaurant, and taste Stanley's craftsmanship. Unexpectedly, not long after sitting down, a stranger came to him. "Hello, classmate, can I sit here?" Russell, who was eating pizza, looked up. A melon face, big golden waves, bulging front and back, a miniskirt, a Hermes handbag, and a few professional textbooks in his hand. Obviously, this is a female college student at Culver University. Judging from his age, he should have just started college not long ago. With the professional vision of a tea person, Russell looked at the female college student and easily came up with her approximate measurements. "College girl, I haven't had this style of tea for a long time." "Of course can." Russell put down the Fai-san in his hand and said with a smile. Although he didn't know the female college student, and he didn't even know her name, one thing he was sure about was that the female college student exceeded his minimum standards for tea tasting. After hearing Russell's answer, the female college student showed a sunny and charming smile and sat down directly. "Hello, my name is Alice, a sophomore from the Department of Biological Sciences, how about you?" After sitting down, Alice began to introduce herself and asked Russell's name. "Pete, racer." Russell made up a random name and occupation. Tea lovers with a little experience know that when drinking tea outside, try not to use your real name. Not only do not use your real name, but if conditions permit, it is best not to make any real name online payment. Wherever you can use cash as much as possible. For example, when a hotel opens a room and pays for a meal. Adult society is complicated. When going out, boys must learn to protect themselves. Racer. After hearing Russell's answer, Alice immediately opened her big Caslin eyes, and a hint of surprise appeared on her beautiful and collagen-filled face. Although Russell's current name and occupation are random, they are not random. In front of girls of different ages, it is a skill to make up what kind of occupation. The professions that are made up should not only attract the curiosity of the other party, but also show their own abilities. For example, it is not very good for a young girl like Alice, who seems to be in good condition at first sight, to pretend that she is a police officer, programmer, doctor, lawyer, etc. in front of her. "Yes, racer," Russell replied with a smile. He didn't say whether he was a professional driver or an amateur driver, let alone what team he was a driver for. The more you talk, the more loopholes. "Then why did you come here? I thought you were also a student at the school." Alice put the expensive Hermes handbag aside seemingly casually and continued to ask. "I haven't had any games recently, so I went out to travel to relax." "You are a student of Culver University, so you must be familiar with the neighborhood. Do you have any interesting places to recommend?" Although Alice has more experience than Peter, in front of Russell, both of them are very easy to fool. It didn't take much effort, just a little trick. After more than 10 minutes, Alice took his right hand and left the restaurant with great enthusiasm and became his temporary tour guide. Half an hour later, after walking around Culver University for a while, Russell came to Alice's residence. Alice, who had just entered her second year of sophomore year, did not live in the dormitory like other students, but shared a room with her good sisters outside. The room where Alice lives is not large, only about 10 square meters. Russell casually surveyed Alice's room. In the wardrobe with the door open, he saw several cheerleading outfits. Is she really a cheerleader? Russell thought Alice was just making it up, but she didn't expect it to be true. After finding that he was looking at the cheerleading uniforms in the cabinet, Alice gave him a look that a man could understand. To drink tea, it means to be calm, taste it slowly, and avoid big gulps. More than an hour later, peeling off the scattered cheerleading uniforms and the poor underwear with little fabric, Russell found his clothes and quickly put them on. While he was getting dressed, Alice was lying on the bed with a flushed face, propped her head with her right hand, and looked at him enchantingly. Are you going? Alice with messy blonde hair said slowly. Aren't you still going to class? Russell asked rhetorically. It's okay, Dr. Ross never takes names in class, Alice said quickly. Dr. Ross. Russell was stunned for a moment. Are you a student of Dr. Betty Ross? Yes, Department of Biotechnology, Cell Biology, I told you this just now. Alice frowned and her expression became a little unhappy. Forehead. Russell quickly recalled and found that Alice had indeed said this. I'm sorry, you are so attractive that I have your pretty appearance in my mind. He originally planned to leave after drinking tea, but he changed his mind. Half an hour later, when Alice reapplied her makeup and changed into a dress that fully accentuated her curves, Russell and her returned to Culver University again. Although she has returned to school, Alice has no plans to go to class. While waiting for Dr. Betty Ross, that is, Banner's ex-girlfriend, to get out of class, Russell and Alice roamed the campus like a couple. I don't know if young people nowadays prefer to pursue excitement. While waiting for Dr. Ross to get out of class, Alice secretly brought Russell into the teaching building and came to a small classroom that was temporarily unused. After entering the classroom, Alice locked the door of the classroom. Then, like a predatory leopard, he threw himself into Russell's arms. Although it was not long after drinking the tea, Russell didn't mind drinking it again. Looking at Alice's beautiful face full of curiosity, Russell did not refuse, and explored life sciences with Alice. Secret teaching in the classroom is taking place. At this time, in front of the floor sign in front of the biotechnology building, a man in a peaked cap and an old gray shirt came with a newspaper in his hand. After seeing the information displayed on the sign, the man showed a relieved smile. If Russell and General Ross were present, they would definitely recognize at a glance that this man who looked a little downcast was Bruce Banner, who had been on the run for more than 2 years. But now, Russell is busy teaching Alice secretly in the classroom, and General Ross is in. Russell doesn't know where he is now. In order to avoid disturbing other students using this classroom, Russell tried to simplify the teaching content as much as possible. In less than half an hour, he ended this teaching instruction. Not long after he and Alice came out of the classroom like nothing else, Banner's ex-girlfriend Dr. Betty Ross also finished today's class. Just as Dr. Betty Ross and several other professors left the teaching building, Alice brought Russell to her. Betty is now wearing a big V-neck dress with black and white polka dots, which perfectly shows her professionalism. Drive Ross. Hello, my name is Luo. My name is Pete. Russell almost revealed his real name. If it wasn't for the softness from his right arm, he almost forgot the pseudonym he told Alice. Hello. Dr. Betty Ross looked at Russell suspiciously and said slowly. Although she doesn't know Russell, she knows Alice, who is holding Russell's right arm and can't wait to stick her whole body on it. So, like Alice, she mistakenly thought Russell was a student at the school. Just when Russell was thinking about how to get rid of Alice and give himself the opportunity to spend some time alone with Dr. Ross, he was keenly aware of the gaze from a distance. Looking in the direction he sensed, he saw a somewhat depressed man. Bruce Banner. When did he come? After seeing Banner, Russell frowned slightly. According to General Ross, he arranged a large number of observers around the school to observe the situation inside and outside the school 24 hours a day. As soon as Banner appeared, he would get the news immediately. However, it turns out that the quality of American soldiers is not as reliable as General Ross said. Betty does not have such a keen perception as Russell. However, after seeing Russell turn her head to look into the distance, she also turned her head to look in the same direction. With this look, there is a problem. Banner was standing by the tree, looking at Betty like a wretched uncle with voyeurism. When Russell looked towards him, he didn't notice any problems. He didn't know Russell, and Russell didn't look like a soldier at all, so he had no idea of avoiding Russell's eyes at all. However, when he didn't think about it, he thought about it, and even Betty, who could not forget it on the way to escape, looked at him. Although he is a little far away from Russell and others now, Betty's eyesight is good. Banner. After seeing that the person standing beside the tree was Banner, Betty had an unbelievable look on her face, and then covered her mouth unconsciously. "Doctor, your ex-boyfriend is back." Russell took his right hand out of Alice's arms, shrugged, and said casually. He was still complaining in his heart that the quality of the U.S. military was not as reliable as General Ross said. Now, he retracts the evaluation just now. The U.S. military is not unreliable, but just as late as the American police. He saw the American soldiers sneaking up in the distance. Not only did he see these American soldiers, Banner also saw it. Banner quickly glanced around, observed the surrounding environment, and made a decisive judgment. Then, without any hesitation, he ran away. After seeing Banner running towards a certain teaching building, Betty chased after Banner without saying a word. "Leave the school immediately and call later." Russell turned to face the confused Alice. Afterwards, he ignored the doubts and confusion on Alice's face, burst out with a speed far beyond normal, and quickly came to Betty's side. "Doctor, you're running so slow, let me take you there." After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for Betty to answer, he just hugged Betty, who was wearing high heels. Alice finally reacted after seeing Russell hug her teacher and quickly disappear in front of her. "Call later, you fool, you didn't leave a phone call." Although holding a person, Banner and Russell's physiques in normal human form are too different. With little effort, Russell caught up with Banner. When Banner was about to rush into the teaching building, he was holding Betty with a roundhouse kick, kicking Banner flying out. Seeing Banner being kicked away like a football and landing heavily on the grass, Betty, who put her arms around Russell's neck, pulled her hands down unconsciously. If it were someone else, Betty's pull would be enough to completely lose her balance. But Russell was no ordinary man. Don't say that the person pulling his neck now is Betty, who is a woman. Even if her father, General Ross, does it himself, don't let him lose his balance. "Before the soldiers from the military arrive, you all have about a minute to talk." As soon as he finished speaking, Russell put Betty down. As soon as her feet touched the ground, Betty ran towards Banner, who was lying on the grass. After confirming that Banner was not kicked by Russell, Betty was excited and hugged Banner, for fear that Banner would leave again. Although Betty was excited, Banner was calm. I saw him get up quickly and comfort Betty. Just as he looked at Russell vigilantly, a cell phone rang suddenly. Russell's cell phone rang. There is no accident. The person calling him now is none other than General Ross. "What are you doing? Take Betty away." General Ross's roar rang out. Russell ignored General Ross and hung up the phone. He brought Betty to Banner, and it seemed a bit nonsensical. But it was all in his plan. Among Marvel's many superheroes, the Hulk is the best representative of strength and endurance. Although Hulk doesn't have any fancy abilities, he only has a body that is as strong as Kaihang. But that's enough. Russell did promise General Ross to help him capture Banner alive. However, before completing the commission, he had something to do with Hulk. He wanted to see if he could compete with the Hulk in physical strength. Extraordinary physique, plus Serum Symbiote. He has also evolved Venom into Serum for some time, but until now, he has not had a particularly suitable opportunity to test it. Originally, he didn't particularly care about the extent of his current physical strength. But the appearance of General Ross made him come up with this idea again. Anyway, Banner is about to be arrested, so by the way, test your strength. Do you want to transform yourself, or am I forcing you to transform? Russell ignored Banner's cold eyes and said slowly. Banner didn't say a word, and shielded Betty behind him. It seems that you don't want to transform yourself. Russell twisted his neck. Serum agent form. Under the gazes of Banner and Betty, white tentacles, large and small, sprouted from his body. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a superhero serum that just became famous in New York. Although this would let General Ross know that he was the Serum, he didn't care about this issue. Sooner or later, he will announce that he is the Serum, and even if General Ross finds out, it will not matter. After seeing Russell's sudden change, the vigilance on Banner's face became more obvious. Although he didn't know what Russell did, he knew that Russell, like himself, was not a normal human being. Without giving Banner too much time to think, after turning into a Serum, Russell's legs suddenly exerted force, and he came to Banner in an instant like a teleportation. Before Banner could do anything, he was hit by Russell in the chest and flew out. At the same time, he wrapped his arms around Betty's waist and put Betty in his arms. Although Banner was knocked out by him, he didn't use too much force. Banner quickly got up and looked at him angrily. Under Banner's gaze, Russell raised his left hand, raised his left index finger, and let out a white tentacle like an octopus tentacle from the fingertip. The white tentacles danced like a poisonous snake's serpent letter. Russell didn't speak, and let the white tentacles get closer to Betty's cheek. Just when the white tentacles were about to touch Betty's cheek, Banner suddenly roared. The roar sounded like an ancient beast. Banner's skin began to turn green, and his body quickly inflated like a balloon. The skyrocketing body first burst the shirt, and then burst the pants. Forehead. To be precise, it broke a part of his pants, and didn't make Banner face the embarrassing situation of disappearing. In just 2 or 3 seconds, Banner turned into a green giant nearly 3 meters tall. Hulk, the Hulk, is here. The nearly 3-meter tall Hulk made Russell in the form of Serum agent look like a miner. Looking at Hulk's arm that was thicker than his thigh and those strong muscles like a rock, several strange thoughts suddenly flashed in Russell's mind. The first thing that appeared was a well-known emoji, an emoji about Hulk and Natasha the Black Widow. After the emoji appeared in his mind, Russell's gaze involuntarily glanced at Hulk's lower body. After this emoji, a meme about the Hulk appeared close. In the Marvel Universe, there are many powerful artifacts that cannot be explained by science. Hulk's pants are said to have the magical effect of never being damaged and never being damaged. No matter what brand and material the pants are, as long as you wear the Hulk, you can get 2 magical effects of never being damaged and never falling off. The appearance of Hulk made Russell have some strange and random thoughts in his mind. And in Betty's mind, it was full of incredible shock. As Banner's ex-girlfriend, Betty doesn't know Banner well. Although she was there on the day of the laboratory accident, she never saw Banner after her transformation. To be precise, before Banner turned into the Hulk, she had passed out. When she woke up again, she was already lying in the hospital bed. After that day, she never saw Banner again. Until today. After seeing Banner transformed into the Hulk, Betty, who was hugged by Russell's waist, covered her mouth in disbelief, and she couldn't believe what she saw in front of her eyes. Although Banner transformed into the Hulk, he did not attack Russell for the first time. Hulk is indeed synonymous with anger. However, this does not mean that he has no sense at all. Although his heart was full of anger, he knew that if he attacked Russell now, he might accidentally hurt Betty. Whether Russell will get hurt or not, he doesn't care at all. But Betty must not get hurt. Hulk stood there, his chest heaving excitedly, panting like a beast. Although he didn't speak, Russell knew exactly what he meant now. Under his gaze, he let go of the right hand that was wrapping around Betty's waist. "Doctor, you'd better stay away." After Russell's right hand was released, Betty instinctively wanted to walk towards Hulk. However, as soon as she stepped out, Russell came to Hulk like a teleport. Bang! Russell jumped up slightly and shot with all his strength. The white fist hit Hulk the head. The Hulk, who was caught off guard, was blasted out by Russell, and flew out like a green ball. If it is under normal circumstances, it is not an easy thing to blow the Hulk with one punch. However, the current Hulk is obviously not in a normal state. Although he now has a certain sense of reason, he obviously did not expect that Russell would attack without warning. Although Hulk was blown away by his own punch, Russell was not happy at all. Is it so hard? After landing, Russell looked at his right fist and frowned slightly. He didn't hold back the punch just now, but the effect was not as good as he imagined. The Hulk, who was knocked into the air, quickly got up, his expression became extremely ferocious, and his green eyes stared at Russell. I saw him roar loudly, making a deafening roar. The next second, he rushed towards Russell like a heavy tank. Although Russell's punch just now didn't seriously hurt him, it completely shattered the little reason left in his mind. Right now, Hulk had only one idea in his mind. He's going to tear Russell alive. Looking at the Hulk, who was running wildly, Russell turned around and ran without any hesitation. Hulk's advantages are obvious, that is, his strength and physique are like hanging. But his shortcomings are equally obvious, that is, his speed is not very fast. Of course, to ordinary people, the Hulk will not be slower than a full-speed car. But for those with extraordinary abilities, Hulk's speed can only be regarded as an ordinary level. Especially compared to his strength and physique, his speed is an obvious shortcoming. Physique, he is not as good as Hulk. Speed, Hulk is not as good as him. When Venom has not evolved to Serum, his speed can reach supersonic Mach 2 or more. After Venom evolved into Serum, his speed was further improved. And the Hulk's speed didn't even reach Mach 1. While hanging out with Alice in the school, Russell found a good place to fight. It was a lawn behind the school, just behind the library. Russell rushed out like a white whirlwind, and the angry Hulk chased after him. It didn't take long for him to come to a broad and uninhabited meadow. After arriving at the grass, he turned to face the Hulk, who was rushing towards him, his legs suddenly forced, and he shot towards Hulk. Here, he doesn't have to worry about accidentally injuring other people, and he can take the shot with all his might. Bang! The white Russell and the green Hulk slammed into each other fiercely, and a huge crashing sound erupted. This guy's strength is a bit too much. Although Russell was not knocked out by the Hulk, he had to admit that the Hulk, who was much bigger than him, now had a big advantage. He caught Hulk's double punches, and the two of them competed for strength like sumo wrestlers, the grass under their feet sunken, and their legs were nailed like nails on the ground. Compared with Hulk's arms, Russell's arms are not at all slim. But it was these arms that didn't seem exaggerated at all, which endured Hulk's power. After realizing that he could not push Russell away, Hulk roared, his legs suddenly exerted force, trying to push Russell away completely. The Hulk, who exerted his strength again, pushed Russell back a few steps. However, now, what Russell cares about is not Hulk's increased power, but Hulk's roar. Because of the face-to-face, he could clearly see Hulk's open mouth and throat. Hulk may just shout instinctively, but for Russell, his approach is no different from a sonic attack. Shut up! White tentacles emerged from behind Russell. These white tentacles quickly condensed into a hammer with a diameter of more than 1 meter. At the moment when the hammer was formed, Russell did not hesitate to control the huge white hammer and smashed it hard towards Hulk's head. With both hands caught by Russell, Hulk could only watch the huge white hammer fall on his head. Boom! The huge white hammer slammed heavily on Hulk's big green head, and the terrifying force smashed Hulk to the ground, allowing him to have a face-to-face intimate contact with the ground. The fallen Hulk smashed a big hole in the grass, and the whole earth shook violently. The moment Hulk fell to the ground, Russell decisively released Hulk's right hand. At the same time, his right hand was swung towards Hulk lightning. Shulker Snake Hands. The hidden shadow snake hand is the signature ninjutsu of a ninja who believes in science. Russell can't do ninjutsu. However, this did not prevent him from imitating this trick. White tentacles gushed out from his right hand and quickly condensed into white pythons. Before Hulk got up, these tentacles that looked like white pythons wrapped around his left foot. Hulk returns. This is Hulk's famous attacking move. Both Loki and Thor were lucky enough to experience this trick. Although they have all experienced Hulk World Return, the Hulk World Return they experienced is not exactly the same. When Loki experienced the Hulk's return, when he was thrown around by the Hulk, the foot he was caught by the Hulk was his right foot. And when Saul experienced Hulk's return, the foot he was caught by Hulk was his left foot. Russell didn't know whether the Hulk was intentional or unintentional. However, he helped Hulk make up for this move. When the target is a female, the grabbing part is the right foot. When the target is a male, the grabbing part is the left foot. Male left, female right. This is very reasonable. Although Hulk didn't know what Russell was going to do, after being wrapped around his left foot by the tentacles like a white python, he instinctively sensed a crisis. Serum is back. Without giving Hulk the time to break free and think, Russell turned around suddenly, using his right hand at the same time, to throw Hulk out. Boom! Hulk, who was wrapped around his left foot, rose up like a cannonball, and then hit the grass heavily. The huge impact made the ground tremble. Just as Hulk smashed a large pit several meters in diameter on the grass, he was thrown out again. Boom, 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 boom. When Russell threw the Hulk around and kept the Hulk in close contact with the grass, General Ross's arrest team finally arrived at the scene. Looking at the extremely violent scene in front of them, the American soldiers at the scene couldn't help being stunned. Although they received the task of arresting the fugitive, they did not know that the fugitive they wanted to arrest was a green giant. Except for a few Corps members and Bronsky and other soldiers who participated in the Brazilian capture operation, the other soldiers did not know how dangerous the target they were trying to capture was. Watching the brutal scene of Russell tossing the Hulk around, listening to the loud crashing sounds that kept coming. The U.S. soldiers who witnessed this scene couldn't help swallowing. Just when they didn't know whether they should participate in the non-human battle in front of them, General Ross sitting in the armored vehicle issued the latest order. Don't intervene in the battle between the white soldiers and the green targets, and when necessary, provide long-range fire support to the white soldiers. After giving the latest order, General Ross in camouflage combat uniform stepped down from the armored vehicle. As soon as he got out of the car, Betty in a polka-dot V-neck dress ran over and stopped in front of him. "Stop, Pete, please," Betty said to General Ross anxiously. "Pete, who is he?" General Ross was stunned for a moment. Betty didn't speak. She stretched out her right hand, pointed to Russell in the distance and said again, "Dad, please, stop Pete." Forehead. Betty didn't know Russell's real name, she only remembered what Russell said about Pete when he introduced himself. "Child, you don't know the situation." Although General Ross didn't know why Betty called Russell with Pete, it was obviously not the time to think about it. After speaking, he grabbed Betty's arm, pulled Betty away, and handed Betty to the soldier behind him. Looking at Russell who was tossing the Hulk around, General Ross's expression became solemn. He would invite Russell to join the arrest operation, indeed he took a fancy to Russell's extraordinary ability. But he did not expect that in addition to his extraordinary physique, Russell actually hides other extraordinary abilities. Although this was beyond his expectations, he was very satisfied with Russell's current strength. Just when he was expecting Russell to completely defeat the Hulk and successfully capture the Hulk, Bronsky in the distance took off the phone headset hanging from his ear. Then, he threw away the rifle in his hand and snatched the grenade gun from the soldiers around him. After taking a look at the number of grenades in the grenade gun, he held the grenade gun and walked towards Russell. "Bronsky, don't interfere, come back." After seeing Bronsky's unusual behavior, General Ross said loudly into the military walkie-talkie. As soon as General Ross finished speaking, Bronsky aimed at Russell who was tossing Hulk with his grenade gun, and pulled the trigger decisively. Boom! The small grenade exploded suddenly. No one thought that Bronsky would attack Russell at this time. When the explosion flames and smoke dissipated, Russell turned to look at Bronsky, who was walking towards him. When Bronsky raised the grenade gun and walked towards him, he knew that Bronsky might have some small movements. Sure enough, after aiming at him, Bronsky decisively fired. The grenade did not hit him, but hit the small shield that he temporarily condensed. When he turned to face Bronsky, he removed the small shield made of white tentacles on his back, and also removed the tentacles that wrapped around Hulk's left foot. When the Pentagon first met Bronsky, he discovered that Bronsky had an inexplicable hostility toward him. However, he still did not expect that Bronsky would dare to attack him in full view. "What is this? Beat your teammates." Although he didn't know what Bronsky was thinking, one thing he knew very well was that he was very unhappy now. He is indeed carrying out a superhero whitewashing plan now, but this does not mean that he really intends to be a good person. What he wants to do is not a superhero like Superman. Injustice and the people of the motherland are the direction he will consider in the future. As for whether he is a dictator like unrighteous Superman, or a superficial hero like a native of the motherland, he is still considering it. After removing the shield behind him and the tentacles on Hulk's feet, he turned and walked slowly towards Bronski. After watching him walk towards him, Bronski continued to pull the trigger without any hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. A round of grenades flew towards Russell. However, none of these grenades hit him, and he was very casually blocked by his right hand. After the grenade was fired, Bronski did not hesitate, threw away the grenade gun and took out the pistol from his waist. Bang 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 bang. When Bronski changed his weapon to a pistol, Russell didn't even plan to block, and let Bronski shoot himself. A magazine was quickly run out of bullets by Bronski. At the same time, Russell came to him. You know, you could have had more power. Although Russell said it very seriously. But it was clear that Bronski didn't listen at all. After Russell came to him, he did not choose to change the magazine, but threw away the pistol, took a half step back, and took out the modified M9 multifunctional bayonet he was wearing on his waist. As soon as his right hand held the M9 bayonet, Bronski stabbed Russell hard with the bayonet. At this time, he was using the martial arts commonly used by the U.S. Special Forces. Although on the modern battlefield, there are fewer and fewer opportunities for hand-to-hand combat. However, the anti-assassination training of the bayonet has not been cancelled, and it is still one of the training items of the U.S. military. The M9 bayonet in Bronski's hand was aggressive, stabbing at Russell's heart like lightning. However, at the moment when the bayonet was about to stab him, Russell shot. Bang! A nice right uppercut. Bronski was kicked out by him. Although he shot late, his right fist hit Bronski's head first. The reason is simple, because his punches are far faster than Bronski. Bronski, who was injected with the fortified serum, is already a super soldier physically. However, super soldiers are also graded. The current hero of S.H.I.E.L.D., Captain America, is the perfect super soldier. His physical functions such as strength, senses, and reactions have reached the limit of human potential. Although Bronski is also a super soldier now, he is obviously a little worse than Captain America. But there is one thing that he is better than Captain America, that is, his recovery ability is stronger than that of Captain America. Even with a comminuted fracture, he can fully recover in just a few days. After hitting Bronski with a punch, Russell walked unhurriedly towards Bronski, who just got up from the ground. He didn't punch with all his strength just now. Otherwise, the moment he was hit, Bronski's head would explode like a falling watermelon. After coming to Bronski, Russell didn't hesitate and shot again. Bang, bang, bang. Although Bronski has a wealth of combat experience and a strengthened body, in front of Russell, he is no different from a sandbag. Bronski's military combat technique was easily cracked by him. Every time he cracked Bronski's attack, he would punch Bronski hard, knocking Bronski out, who didn't know what he was thinking. After seeing Russell and Bronski suddenly fight, General Ross's first reaction was to stop the two of them from continuing to beat their teammates. But now, neither Russell nor Bronski will follow his orders. When Russell unilaterally beat Bronski, the dizzy Hulk climbed up from the huge impact crater. He shook his head in a daze, and patted his head with his right hand, trying to dispel the dizzy feeling. When he stopped beating his big green head, he spat something out of his mouth. Those are his teeth. Broken tooth. After spitting out the broken tooth, he panted and looked at Russell, who was beating Bronski. Although he didn't know why Russell suddenly got into a fight with Bronski, he knew one thing very well. Hulk is very angry. Hulk is going to vent his anger now. After seeing Russell's figure, Hulk's anger became stronger and stronger. In the end, he slapped his chest like a gorilla, and let out a roar like an ancient beast. The huge roar immediately attracted the attention of General Ross and others. After seeing Hulk stand up again, Betty shook off the soldiers beside him and ran towards Hulk. However, she was just a few steps away when she was thrown to the ground by the soldiers who followed. Hulk planned to vent his anger violently. However, after seeing Betty being thrown to the ground by another man, the target of his anger shifted. Without any hesitation, Hulk ran towards General Ross like a mad rhinoceros. Fire! Fire all! General Ross gave the order decisively. Now he is no longer in the mood to pay attention to why Bronski attacked Russell. Da 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 da. Intense gunshots, big and small, continued to sound, and the rifles in the hands of the American soldiers and the machine guns on the Humvee were all aimed at the running Hulk. After giving the order, General Ross did not hesitate, and immediately ordered the soldiers to take Betty away. The moment the gunshots rang out, Russell temporarily stopped beating Bronski and looked at General Ross. Although he has no personal relationship with General Ross, he cannot deny that General Ross is now his employer. He wouldn't let his employer die in front of him until he got the promised pay. Just when he was about to stop the Hulk running towards General Ross, a system message appeared in his sight. Regular reward. Power of Abomination. Status: inactive, activation condition. Conquer Bronski, who is transformed into Abomination. Activation effect: after activation, get the ability to transform into Abomination. The moment he read the reward information, Russell made a decision. Just a reward that turned into a hate, just want him to spare Bronski's life, stop joking. Without any hesitation, he grabbed Bronski's head and lifted him up. Then, his right hand suddenly exerted force. Bang! Bronski's head was completely crushed by him, like a watermelon that was hit hard. Brains are flying, blood is splashing everywhere. After killing Bronski, he didn't waste any more time and ran towards Hulk. Just when Hulk was about to come to General Ross, Russell appeared in front of Hulk like a white ghost. The Hulk discovered Russell's arrival. At the same time, he also saw a huge white fist. Boom! With the inertia of running wildly, Hulk slammed into Russell's white giant fist fiercely, and a shock wave of air visible to the naked eye was born in an instant, dispersing toward all directions. General Ross didn't have time to react, and was directly thrown away by the shock wave. The one who flew out like General Ross, and the Hulk. Although Russell's condition was a little better, he also flew several meters backwards. When he stabilized his body again, the white giant fist formed by the symbiote returned to its normal size. He used the symbiote to soar his right fist to over 1 meter just now. Without leaving any hand, he hit Hulk's chest with all his strength. Although the symbiote has an extremely powerful recovery ability, the moment it hit Hulk, there was still severe pain in his right fist. He knew that the Hulk was rough and fleshy, but he didn't expect that the Hulk was rough and fleshy to such an extent. After blasting the Hulk again, he did not hesitate and rushed towards the Hulk at high speed. With the test at this point, it's time to end. Continue to fight. The ghost knows whether Hulk's power will increase again. When rushing towards Hulk at high speed, 4 tail-shaped sharp tentacles appeared on Russell's lower waist again. Lin Jinmu. This is Russell's name for this move after his last match against the Defenders. Although the original source of this Lin was Li Shi, he still named it Jinmu. The reason is very simple, because one is the protagonist and the other is a supporting role. Compared with the Lin Jinmu that was cast last time, the tail-shaped sharp tentacles this time are a little different. Not to mention the fact that the symbiote itself has become stronger. The most obvious is that the color of the tentacles changed from black to white. In the blink of an eye, Russell rushed in front of the fallen Hulk. Without giving Hulk a chance to get up, 4 tail-shaped sharp tentacled pythons attacked Hulk like a snake. Although these 4 white tentacles are very sharp, Russell's current purpose is not to pierce Hulk's body. The white tentacles attacked Hulk's limbs respectively. Afterwards, Hulk's limbs were tightly bound, and he pulled it out. The Hulk lying on the ground suddenly turned into a big shape. Fortunately, it is not in the shape of wood. At this time, Russell's mind still had some messy thoughts. Although his limbs were tightly bound, Hulk was obviously not an obedient baby. Without any suspense, Hulk began to struggle fiercely. Russell ignored Hulk's struggle, stepped on Hulk's chest, raised his right foot, and kicked Hulk's big green head fiercely. Bang! Hulk's head was kicked to the ground by him, making a hole in the grass. After kicking the Hulk, Russell started his real purpose. Heal. He will use the extraordinary healing power of Serum to make Hulk change back to Banner. That's right, now he just wants to make Hulk change back to Banner. Before meeting Hulk, he once considered whether to copy Hulk's abilities. But after seeing the scene where Banner transformed into the Hulk, he dismissed the idea. Hulk is indeed very powerful. If it was someone else, such as General Ross, he would never mind having the ability to transform like Banner. But Russell doesn't think so. He doesn't deny the Hulk's strength, but he is very satisfied with his current complexion. He doesn't like green, not at all. When you are emotionally excited, you will unconsciously transform into a huge body that is far beyond ordinary people. After comprehensive consideration, he decisively gave up the idea of copying. Getting bigger and stronger, under normal circumstances, is a good thing. But everything has a degree, and Hulk's body size has obviously exceeded the normal level. He didn't want to be like Banner, who had to pay attention to his heartbeat and emotions at all times when making out with his girlfriend. Serum can cure extraordinary abilities caused by genetic mutation. It is not an easy task to completely cure Banner's genetic mutation caused by gamma energy radiation. If it were easy, Banner cured his mutation early in the morning. Although a complete cure is not an easy task, if it is only suppressed for a short period of time, it is not particularly difficult. The antidote developed by Mr. Lan, Dr. Samuel Stern, can suppress Banner's mutant genes in a short period of time, thus making the Hulk disappear temporarily. Of course, serums with stronger healing power and less scientific reasons can also be used. The Hulk, who was stepped on by Russell, was struggling like a mad patient in a mental hospital. However, after a few seconds, Hulk's struggle began to weaken. The Hulk's green skin began to lighten slowly, gradually returning to his normal complexion. The strong body, nearly 3 meters high, also began to shrink rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 10 seconds, Hulk disappeared. Banner, who was not strong at all, reappeared in Russell's sight. "Drive, Banner, welcome back." When the Hulk began to shrink in size, Russell got off him, lest he stepped on Banner's rib. At this time, Banner was sweating profusely, as if he had just finished an indescribably intense exercise, and an incredible look appeared on his face. Although he has undergone many transformations, this is the first time he has been forcibly transformed back into a human form by others. Before he could speak, Russell released the tentacles that wrapped around his limbs, and at the same time released his serum agent form. Although Banner didn't know what Russell had done to him, he knew that the mutation he could not cure despite his best efforts seems to have been cured now. Before he had time to be happy, General Ross rushed over with a group of soldiers and, without saying a word, had the soldiers put him in handcuffs. "What did you do to him?" When the soldiers handcuffed Banner and began to put other restraints on Banner, General Ross asked Russell with a solemn expression. "It's nothing, just cured him temporarily." Russell replied casually. "Temporary? Are you sure this is only temporary?" General Ross's expression was already solemn, and he asked again. "If there is no accident, it should be temporary." Although he turned Banner back into a human being, Russell didn't know to what extent Banner's mutation was cured. Serum can indeed cure extraordinary abilities caused by genetic mutations. Banner's transformation into the Hulk is indeed due to genetic mutation. This does not mean that Banner's genetic mutation can be easily cured. Banner's genetic mutation, just like the Hulk in battle, is a particularly difficult existence to eliminate. You'd better make sure that this is temporary. You should know exactly what the value of Banner is. General Ross reminded Russell very seriously. "If I remember correctly, the commission you gave me, General, was to capture Banner alive. From the perspective of commission, I completed the commission according to the agreed requirements. As for the rest, that's something you have to consider, General." Speaking of which, Russell paused and his expression became serious. "By the way, General, shouldn't you also give me an explanation?" Russell raised his right hand and pointed to the corpse in the distance. Bronski's body. General Ross's expression became a little awkward. Although he did not arrange for Bronski to attack Russell, Bronski was his subordinate anyway. The misfortunes caused by the subordinates will of course be recorded on the head of the commander. "What kind of explanation do you want?" General Ross said slowly. "Don't worry, I'm not the kind of unreasonable person. I'm a good talker sometimes," Russell said with a smile. Although Russell looks very kind now, General Ross knows that if Russell is really so talkative, he will not be called a crazy traveler. "Come on, what do you want?" General Ross had no plans to go around in circles with Russell, and asked bluntly. "It's very simple. I will set up a military-industrial enterprise in a while. I hope that you, General, will help you to support the platform and provide some small help." Although Russell got the first order from the military, he sold the low-end version of the entry-level battle armor Zaku to the military, and he also sold it for a good price. But his military enterprise has not even built a framework yet. If you want to eat the military orders that originally belonged to Stark Industries, it is far from enough to rely on Number 3 and Peter. Even if they were regarded as the donkeys of the production team, it would not work. Therefore, Russell must build a serious military enterprise. That being the case, it is inevitable to borrow the identity and personal connections of General Ross. If that's all, it's really simple. General Ross was already prepared for the worst. Unexpectedly, Russell wanted these things. This is not a problem for him at all. Compared with the military order he promised at the beginning, this request is not ordinary. As I said just now, I am a good talker sometimes. After resolving the Banner affair, Russell had no plans to stay at Culver University. He has already done what he should do. The rest is about General Ross and Banner. Before leaving, he specially reminded General Ross, "Don't look at Banner like a normal person now, the ghost knows when he will regain his transformation ability." In order to prevent General Ross from hanging up before fulfilling his promise, Russell felt compelled to remind him. New York, Octopus Lab. After leaving Culver University, Russell went straight back to the lab. Just when he was going to take a rest and go out at night to do a good deed, his phone suddenly rang. Looking at the unfamiliar number on the screen, he frowned slightly. Although he did not deliberately keep his contact information secret, not many people knew his phone number. After connecting, a familiar voice came over. "You developed the Zaku armor?" "No greetings and nonsense," Tony asked directly. "Your news is very well informed." In the morning, Russell sold the armor to the military. Only half a day later, Tony received the news. It is worthy of being the #1 supplier of the military once. "Don't get off the topic. Did you develop the Zaku armor you sold to the military?" Tony continued to ask. "Mr. Stark, think about it with your big smart head. Do I look like the kind of person who can develop battle armor? I did design a part of the Zaku armor, but I didn't develop it." Russell is telling the truth, he did participate in part of the design. The 2 points of Zaku's shape and performance shrinking were decided by him. "I saw the technical parameters of the battle armor you gave to the military. The thermal axe is quite good, and the others are a bit ordinary. Haven't your R&D team thought about upgrading the performance?" "Upgrade performance? What a joke. If the performance was upgraded, it wouldn't be at this price." "You called, shouldn't you be asking this?" Russell questioned Tony. "Of course not," Tony said quickly. "I thought you were just a killer with superpowers, but I didn't expect you to be interested in high-tech products like battle armor. Remember what I told you last time? I also developed a set of battle armor. Are you interested in coming over to appreciate it? The performance is definitely better than your Zaku battle armor." Although he couldn't see Tony's appearance, Russell could roughly imagine Tony's expression right now, the kind of expression that a child wants to show other children when he has a new toy. "Its performance is better than my Zaku armor, are you sure?" "Of course. Although your Zaku armor is not bad, it's still a little worse than mine. If you don't believe me, you can come and see for yourself." Tony said confidently. "You said so. If I don't take a look, it's too much to say." "In 2 days, how about Saturday?" Russell thought for a while and said slowly. Although he doesn't know which armor Tony has made now, he doesn't care about it at all. Be it Mark II or Mark III, it is impossible for him to be an opponent of the Zaku form of the endosymbiotic armor. "Saturday? Why wait for 2 days, are you busy?" Tony asked in confusion. "I'm not busy, but you reminded me just now, so I plan to upgrade my battle armor during these 2 days." Russell found a reason at random. "Upgrade your armor? Well, then I'll wait for you for 2 days, and I'll send you the address later." After speaking, Tony hung up the phone. 11 p.m. Russell only returned to the apartment after completing the Serum reputation task of doing a good deed a day. The next day, Russell was planning the establishment of the Octopus Monster military industrial enterprise in the office, and was thinking about whether to find Bakshi again and let Hydra also contribute a little bit. Just then, his phone rang. Another unfamiliar number. After connecting, he heard General Ross's voice. Forehead. As soon as I heard it, I knew it was the kind of voice that was in a very bad mood. Where are you now? General Ross asked. New York. Why, another commission? Russell replied with a relaxed expression. Yes, another commission. What commission? Banner. Banner escaped. Although Russell expected that Banner might escape from General Ross, he did not expect that Banner's efficiency would be so high. It's only been one night, and Banner ran away. Russell mourned for General Ross for a few seconds in his heart, and said slowly, "What's going on? What else could it be? Banner has transformed again." He transformed into a green giant again, broke the specially made cage, wounded the guards, and took Betty away. General Ross suppressed his anger and quickly explained Banner's escape. "You want to entrust me to arrest him again. Now only you have the ability to capture Banner alive, not anyone. No matter what your conditions are, as long as I can do it, I will promise you." Obviously, General Ross is really getting a little over the top now. But if you think about it, this is normal. After chasing the target for several years, I finally caught it. As a result, within 24 hours, the target escaped from his hands. Run away, the big deal is to start over. However, Banner actually took Betty, the only daughter of General Ross, with him. If Russell were General Ross, he would have killed Banner now. "General, you may not know me very well. I won't be very interested in a commission with the same content. Besides, General, you still owe me 2 remunerations. Before you fulfill your promise, General, you should hire another genius." Although it would not be too difficult to capture Banner again, Russell did not intend to take on General Ross's entrustment. He has given General Ross a lot of face. If it were someone else, he would not accept this type of commitment. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.